Heyo. What up, folks? Hope you're all doing well. I'm making it. It's a fucking chaotic ass year. I'm sure everybody is familiar with that. We're just gonna be moving through our replays from Saturday's tournament. It's really damn good. We had a lot of great games. Lots of new faces, which is always really exciting. So we're gonna go through. We're gonna cover some more. We're gonna cover as many of these replays as we possibly can. No guarantees we'll finish them all, but at the very least, I hope that you learned a thing or two about just the game in general. That's like the big ultimate goal, right? Impart as much knowledge as possible so that the transition from like campaign to multiplayer is as easy as possible, because the multiplayer side of things is incredibly complicated and requires a lot of explanation and is, you know, pretty intimidating. It certainly was for me. Without further ado, though, we're going to jump into a pretty interesting matchup. We've got Tomb Kings versus Tzeentch, and in terms of capabilities on the side of the Tomb Kings to fight into Tzeentch, they actually do have quite a few good tools to counter Tzeentch's best options that they would bring in a lot of other matchups, such as like Changebringers and Flamers, Exalted Flamers, stuff like that, just because Tomb Kings actually have a lot of really good range tools to keep units like that at bay, as well as big stuff like the Necrosphinx, which I do actually like in this matchup. I would prefer to see, instead of the regular Necrosphinx, the Sphinx of Uskef personally, because that does have magic attacks, as opposed to this variant, which doesn't. But you are also investing in a Hyro Titan, which does have magic damage and some flaming attacks, as well as some bound spells that are actually fairly effective against, you know, like cheaper characters such as this Exalted Hero, the Chaos Lord, and the Cultist. Shemsburning Gaze is very good at sniping stuff like this down, plus the Spirit Leech and good combat stats. It's an interesting unit to bring. I would be very careful, though, about using it on this number 3 objective. I would actually prefer to see it go up to the number 1, since it's very slow and immobile. It's not something that's going to be able to bounce back and forth. That's really something the Necrosphinx is going to be more competent at. It's got 68 speed. The Hyro Titan at 32 is just never, ever going to be able to rotate between these two objectives effectively. If you spend a whole bunch of time trying to do it, there's a chance that you get your Hyro Titan caught out in the middle of nowhere, fighting a bunch of garbage, and then you're wasting 2,000 gold unit, basically. I believe that's how much these are. It's really cool, and I don't even think it's a bad unit, honestly. Especially with the layering that we're seeing here. We get a Shemsburning Gaze to pop the shield down a little bit. Then we get a Spirit Leech from Arkan, who is taking a little bit of damage, maybe a little unnecessary. Pop that Spirit Leech and just literally run him right next to the Hyro Titan. Just for exactly the situation where, you know, your opponent doesn't want to let the Chaos Lord get smacked by a bunch of spells from Arkan, because he will wear the Chaos Lord of Tzeentch out pretty quickly. If you have Arkan next to the Hyro Titan, then you're just, like, guaranteed safe. Like, there's no reason that you should be taking this fight here with the Chaos Lord. He's a really good anti-large character. He can definitely put the moves on Arkan or the Hyro Titan, but the two of them standing together, it's a little bit too much for this guy to be handling at once. Beautiful Burning Head in the front line. Does get a little bit of mediocre rotation. You know, it wobbles back and forth. It usually stays on a fairly straight line, but you can see it kind of like peeling back here. And hitting the skeletons isn't a bad idea, honestly, because really these skeletons are just a roadblock more than anything. Getting rid of them as quickly as possible so that you can push into the backline to fight stuff like Chosen of the Gods, as well as kill skeleton archers and not have to deal with Ushapti sitting on top of skeleton spears for an extended period of time, where they'll uptrade spectacularly as long as they have that skeleton spear buffering. Definitely want to accomplish it as quickly as possible. So Burning Head's a really good place to start with breaking them down early on. But you can always cast it in the back here. You've got a fairly long cast range on Burning Head, and hitting these skeleton archers is always an option. Because archer units have much lower HP totals than their melee counterparts. You can see 120 models versus 160, but, you know, a full 3,500 less HP, pretty much. Or actually, it's only about 3,000 less. Still a decent chunk of a difference between the two. Definitely get some pretty effective value hitting these 425 gold skelly archers. And if you can kill them and then just grind down the skeleton archers, or the skeleton spears, that's also a fairly worthwhile endeavor. Because skeleton spears don't have a lot of uptrade potential. Skeleton archers are actually fairly cost effective. They only cost 425 gold, and if you're familiar with, like, the Beastmen have a very similar unit in the Ungor Raiders. Skeleton Archers have just better range and slightly more missile strength, if I'm not mistaken, so you've got to be very aware that this unit can easily double or even triple its value just by poking away at a distance, and it takes a lot of time for pink cars to shoot down a unit that's a full 275 gold less expensive. And you've got other stuff that you need to worry about. Like, look at the value on the Chosen of the Gods right now. 740 value. Not a whole lot to threaten them, really. Changebringers do come out. They got some good volleys off on the Necrosphinx, which is down to about half health, but it did get some decent damage. Also, just dragging the Changebringers out, wasting a bunch of its ammo, and then dodging around and getting back up on the middle to support the front line. Going pretty nicely for the Tomb Kings, who do have a small value lead, but big potential disaster here. Arkan is not a combat character. He has respectable melee defense. But really, you want to rely on Arkan alongside big single entities as his real protection, because him fighting something one-on-one is just never really going to go too well for you. You know, the Chaos Lord doesn't have that much melee attack when he's exhausted like this, only 38, but his bonus versus large of 30 is definitely getting him over the break points to be pummeling the absolute living hell out of Arkan, who is having a really bad time of it right now. Undead leadership losses usually aren't that devastating. They're suited as a faction to be able to survive it somewhat, but it is definitely going to hurt. Because once crumbling begins, it's pretty damaging for all of the undead factions outside of the vampire counts, who have just oodles of passive healing. And you'll see it start to slowly wear down all the Tomb Kings. Really, allowing your Lord to get sniped is just something that should never happen as Tomb Kings. It's something that's fairly avoidable. It's one of the reasons I recommend not bringing My Will Be Done, which Arkan did have here, which buffs up stats on the front line by +5/+5. It's not that good. It costs 200 gold, and it puts you in a position where you might be overpressing your lords into hazardous areas of the battlefield. If you just keep Arkan back and just have him run forward and cast spells, occasionally go into, like, countercharge the Chaos Lord if he's, like, trying to land back here and attack the Ushabti Greatbows, that's really all that he should ever be doing. You've got other tools that can be going up into the front line and taking damage, like the Hierotype and the Necrosphinx. One of which has gone down here. The Hierotitan is hanging in, but Lord Balthazar doing a pretty good job of grinding back the lead here. Sepulchral Stalkers locked in melee combat against the Chaos Lord of Tzeentch. You might think it's a really good fight for them, but their bonus versus large is pretty mediocre at 18. With really low melee attack at base. They are very rarely going to be chipping in with that 75 weapon strength against the Chaos Lord, and then you have to factor in all his armor, and 75 weapon strength really isn't all that much either for an anti-large unit to begin with. They're fairly inefficient in melee combat. Sepulchral Stalkers really are just a ranged unit. Their hybrid stats are just so they don't get totally flattened before you can peel for them, since Tomb Kings don't have a lot of melee DPS. Using them in a sustained fight is very rarely going to pay off for you. It's definitely something that you want to be a little bit more cautious of. By this stage of the battle, though, things are looking pretty horrible for the Tomb Kings. The front line folded up, losing Arkan also hurt tremendously, and I think the Hyrule Titan and Necrosphinx against Tzeentch is just way too much of an investment. You've got to think about what the other faction is going to be like falling back on and relying on in terms of their like army composition and units that they're going to be wanting to bring in to do damage to you. A Necrosphinx, fine. A Hyrule Titan, fine. But the both of them together is 4,000 gold. That is a lot to spend in the early game when you're playing into a faction that is, at the end of the day, you know, like a ranged faction overall. They're not going to be bringing that many amazing targets for either of those units to fight. They can each be a decent anchor piece and also bodyguard for Arkan. But their opportunities to value trade are going to be pretty dependent on whether your opponent is allowing you to engage stuff like the Chaos Lord or the Exalted Hero. Both of which, while they can be pummeled by big monsters, are fairly decent at least value trading effectively into them. Just because that is kind of where their stats are oriented. They've got these huge bonuses against large targets. They're just going to hit very consistently. Even if you are able to kill them with such expensive tools, the advantage in terms of value trading probably will still fall to your opponent. And then you've got to still contend with their superior front line, because Tomb Kings are just never going to win a frontline engagement with skeletons. Skeletons are just so awful in melee combat. I mean, they literally are only there to allow stuff like Ushabti and Sepulchral Stalkers, Ushabti Greatbows to, like, get their value. If you're relying on them as your front line, you're often going to just be horrendously disappointed, because even against a blue horror, they just aren't going to be doing that much damage. You can see in the stat comparison that the blue horrors have less melee defense, sure, but they do just have, like, straight up better melee attack, and you've got to factor in the other, like, things that the blue horrors have going for them, like their missile strength. You know, they can just, like, fire their volleys off into something like a skeleton archer that's too close to the front line. They can also hit some skeleton horsemen, fire to Ushabti, whatnot. Get some value that way, and then just grinding into the skeletons. They're usually going to perform a little bit better than whatever you're able to throw out as the Tomb Kings. And you kind of see that going on here with all these blue horrors still being alive after all is said and done. Beautiful army ability from Tzeentch. I mean, just deleting literally everything the Tomb Kings have left. The big thing here is just, like, choosing one or the other. Hyrule Titan for the utility, and as a big anchor piece that can still use some of the bound spells to punish something, like the Changebringers, or hit the Lords and whatnot. Or you go Necrosphinx, and use it as a bully tool, basically. Anytime your opponent wants to use the Chaos Sorcerer Lord, or not the Sorcerer Lord, just the regular old Chaos Lord, to try and attack units like the Chosen of the Gods, or if you bring your Casket of Souls out, and he's trying to attack that, just, like, use the Necrosphinx to kind of mirror your opponent's characters. It's not really going to be able to do a whole lot against Tzeentch otherwise. Really, you just want more shooting here. Probably a few more skeletons. I mean, I know they're not a great unit, but you just don't have any flex here with 3 skeletons. It's very thin. Like, the Cultists barely needed to do any work that game. You are going to be absolutely annihilated by Burning Head at some point as the Tomb Kings. Because it's just the most cost-effective spell in the game for clearing out undead chaff. There really isn't anything even close in comparison. Just cutting one of these big monsters, flexing in some more bodies, having to bring them in reserve is just so painful, because this is where you really want your other damage dealers to be coming in that you couldn't afford in the initial wave. And when you're having to like mix them in and spend like 300 gold on them here or there, you're not going to be getting your Ushabti out in a very timely manner. And lacking the constructs, especially the Ushabti, is not a very enviable position to be in. And even go for let's do a quick little build here. So like I said, my will be done. It's kind of pointless. It's actually 150 gold, not 200. It used to be 200, though. Very confident in that. Tombblade of Arkan, summoning skeleton warriors really isn't that useful. They've got, like, extra models and HP. It's nice, but it only recharges if you're engaged in melee combat. Arkan very rarely wants to be in those kinds of situations because, he, like I said, he's like fairly capable of defending himself, but he's really just not a great combat character. He's not going to be able to survive more, high-value, anti-large characters, like what Tzeentch is going to be bringing in. Keeping him back and alive is way more important for you. The Soul Blight's cute, it's just not that good. Doom and Darkness has some utility against demons if you don't want to bring Fate of Buna, but really, Fate of Buna and Spirit Leech. Buna for anything like the Chaos Knights or Centigores. Did see some Centigores of Tzeentch at one point in there. Spirit Leech for Changebringers and characters. And you can do the Hyrule Titan. Throw in lots of spears. A couple skeleton warriors also. Get your archers. Chosen of the Gods. And then you've got 1,400 gold here that you can kind of mix and match with. You don't have to, you can kind of do whatever you want with that. Don't be afraid to mix it up and try some new things out. Another thing that's really important for Tomb Kings is their cavalry. Because of the bad cap weight that skeleton warriors have, your skeleton horse archers and just regular old skelly horsemen are your cap weight, oftentimes in the early game. Using them to like maneuver up and cap an objective early, and then fall them back to provide a little bit of extra fire support. Keep your opponent a little more honest on your flanks is really important. Just because the Tomb Kings are gonna be turtling up very often, you know, you want to kind of play very similarly to the dwarves, where you've got your shooting that you're trying to keep protected while they clear everything out, and your infantry, not really designed for killing anything in melee combat more than they are just holding the line while the ranged tools actually accomplish that. Opponents will often build up on factions like Tomb Kings and Dwarves to try and overwhelm in one big push. And the skeleton horse archers and horsemen give you a little bit of flexibility in taking early poke trades that keep your opponent from being too passive and taking way too much ground on you while they're preparing for the Alpha Strike. It's something that you're definitely going to want to be very aware of, because if you allow your opponent to build up too much as Tomb Kings, and they just flood down on you and they get past your skeleton warriors, it could just be game over, because they going to occupy the attention of all of your expensive shooting units, and they'll never be able to value trade at that point. You can do like the basically the same build on the back end. I wouldn't be too aggressive. I wouldn't bring too many Ushabti Great Bows because they're pretty solid, but Ushabti are just really cost effective nowadays. They're a very reliable unit. They've got 90 armor, decent amount of HP. Maybe not the strongest in terms of their flexibility, but in terms of clearing out numbers, with their AP, decent weapon strength, they do a pretty good job of it. You could also go for like a chariot or something against Tzeentch, get some more skeleton horsemen in here, and I think you're good. Instead of doing the the Casket of Souls, Screaming Skull catapults, I mean, do magic damage. They also discourage leadership by quite a bit. The -8 plus the 10 you already get from artillery units at base. They can crumble out blue horrors pretty quickly, and that's going to be really nice for the Tomb Kings. Definitely something that you should look into. A couple of Carrion isn't a bad idea, just to stop any Changebringers from being able to maneuver too freely in the sky, just in case your Great Bows or your Horse Archers are occupied at any point. You can use the Carrion to kind of screen out the big, scary flyers that might be hounding you aggressively. A couple more Horse Archers, not a bad idea. Maybe you can get like one Tomb Guard Halberd in. They got a Silver Shield, a little bit more armor than the Warriors and stuff, so they can be a little bit more survivable, and they're a good anchor tool. They have full cap weight, which is also really nice to have. In a pinch, it's at a premium here on the Tomb Kings roster, so having like one full cap weight infantry unit can be a nice little anchor on occasion. Pretty sure we went over that one already. Sean versus Potato. Did we see this? I don't actually think we did. Wood Elves into Lizards. Lizards have, honestly, not a bad matchup into the Wood Elves. I would be prioritizing having some Chameleon Skinks in here, though. Chameleon Skinks are just vicious against the Wood Elves. They have poison, they've got very powerful missiles with decent range on them, plus oodles of missile resistance in their own right. I believe Chameleons have 40% missile resistance. They can motor up around flanks and get protection from stuff like Feral Cold One Spear Riders, and just easily outshoot the Wood Elf options, because Chameleon Skinks also fire way quicker. In the time it takes for a Glade Guard to shoot one volley off, a Chameleon Skink will have gotten 2 volleys off, and both units are pretty squishy. Typically, though, Chameleon Skinks are going to be able to quickly outfight Archers once they close the gap, and it's pretty easy to do that since the Chameleon Skinks have Stalk on them. Stegodon on the number 3. Red Crested Skink hanging out nearby. Going for the really cheap Red Crested Skink Chief has been something I've seen a lot from Lizardmen players. It's not bad. I mean, super cheap lords that you don't care if they get sniped are not a bad way to go against the Wood Elves, since they've got some very strong snipe tools. They've got Prevenoth Rama, Arrow of Kurnus. They've got the Way Watchers and the Way Stalkers. Way Stalkers, the Foot Bowman character. Arrow of Kurnus is restricted now, so you don't see them all that much anymore, but on occasion, people will unrestrict it, and you'll see them then. They're also very good at poking down characters, like the Red Crested Skink Chief. Being able to bring that guy back out for like 600 gold just in case he does get sniped out is really nice, because it's going to mitigate all of the leadership problems that come in, and Wood Elves just love going for the sniping potential. It's pretty easy to pull off. Just take some decent positioning, and your opponent's lords will just be on death's bed within a handful of volleys from something like a Waywatcher. Skink Chief gets up into the Eternal Guard, going for a very aggressive cap on the number 2 here with the Skink cohorts. That's okay, but you are leaving yourself vulnerable on the other side of the formation, with the Dryads kind of getting into position to clear out quite a few of your Skink Skirmishers, who are also getting shot to death by the Glade Guard Hadbane tips. And these Dryads are also going to muck up the works for the Spear Riders. All of these units kind of just like flying in here. You're going to have to be very careful not to let them get trapped for more than a moment, because if they get stuck in the front line and they're not able to run down the Waywatchers, all of these bows, look how much damage they're doing on the way in, man. They're just going to melt you horrifically. And there's not really going to be a whole lot you can do about it in the late game, with, you know, like Pravenoth Rama netting down another Golden Spear Rider over here. Get the Stegodon getting in, but it is fighting on top of the Eternal Guard. Eternal Guard do have pretty good stats, and are very capable of pulling down big monsters like this, because they have really good AP values. Stegodon needs to be chasing the Glade Guard as much as possible here. Waywatchers do get caught a little bit by one of the Cold Ones, but that's the last Cold One rider, other than this new summon out here. Another out here on the flank being taken down by the Wild Hunters of Kurnus. More Cold One Spear Riders. Looks like they were stuck up on this Dryad. They're able to finally get off of there. They are able to get a little bit of a countercharge off against the Wild Hunters of Kurnus, who look like they're going to be trying to run away. Might be a little difficult for them to disengage from there, though. Skink cohorts following up on the Glade Guard here. Potato with a big value lead. Going too aggro into Wood Elves very rarely works out. They're just too quick, and their units are too cost-effective, and if you leave something like a Waywatcher, even though they're at less than half health, they still have 42 models, so they've got a really nice weight of fire left to them. They're going to be devastating for whatever you're able to pull out onto the field in the late game. Wood Elves are able to counter-push very effectively, too. A lot of shooting factions don't really have the ability to do that in the late game, but the Wood Elves have good cavalry. For one, they've also got effective counters to heavy infantry like Wildwood Rangers. War Dancers are pretty good at clearing out chaff like Skink Cohort. And then there's the ever-present Dryads. Dryads are very, very efficient units. You can see here, I mean, this one's gotten just about its value back. It's pretty beat up, but considering it was also getting charged down by some Cold One Spear Riders at one point, I'd say that's a pretty exceptional performance from them. And they're also going to be able to counter-push pretty capably, so just stay patient. Like, you had the cap weight advantage here. Take the number 3, get the number 1. If the Wood Elves want to try and shoot you off, you can always pull back, give them space to then move up and get farther away from their deployment zones. And you can build up in the woods here fairly safely with some of your mobility, to then maybe try and push around the back, or just to overwhelm the front with just numbers and try and bulldoze through the front line up into the missile line here. This is a pretty good map for the Wood Elves overall. There's just a lot of very restricted access for flanks on this map. Like, you gotta go all the way on the outside here, or up through the trees here, which can be cut off pretty easily. Really, it's the home objectives side of the map that has the best flanking routes, but even here, if you're playing it smart on the Wood Elf side of things, you just have a few units scattered throughout here, making it a little bit more difficult to, creep through the gaps, and then you can have your Wild Riders, countercharge, bank up supplies, do the same thing with Glade Riders or whatever you need, and just focus fire everything down, and that was done excellently here by Potato. Sean does pull back. Not a lot of people would have the wherewithal to even go for something like this, but it is the right call because you're just on the back foot pretty horribly right now. You don't have a lot of units left on the field. Your opponent is pushing up with superior numbers, saving what few forces you have, and then trying to get some more stuff out of the spawns to contest objectives in the late game. It's probably about the last hope that you've got here. I don't know how well it's going to go, but it's better than nothing. Just conceding, you can do that, but sometimes it's worth going for these like late game risky plays where you see if you can find a way back into matches, because you'd be surprised what you can come back from. I've had games where I've been down like 2,000 value at one point and been able to swing it back in return against my opponent. I mean, you just have to play it very carefully and cautiously from this point. Salamander's getting poked, doing a pretty good job of preserving them though. They've taken quite a few volleys, but really not that much damage all things considered. Especially when you're taking into account that these are the Way Watchers. Way Watchers have quite a bit of ammo, but any volleys that you can waste by just skirmishing and dodging the volleys that they're throwing out is going to be really nice for you. Brutal damage on the Stego. It's usually not a very good idea to bring expensive single entities against Wood Elves. Because Wood Elves, like I said, they've got all the tools in the world to kill big stuff like this. Usually Wood Elves struggle if you go with like numbers, as well as lots of shields and quick mobility that's cost effective and you can compromise the missile lines. If you can do any of those things, you're able to like pull the Wood Elves missiles down to size, then you're usually going to have a reasonably good chance of beating them in the mid to late game. Just because, like all the Elf factions, Wood Elves have pretty small HP pools. Compromising them and forcing them to fight in melee on your own terms at inopportune moments is usually where you're going to be able to negate the speed advantage that they have, because, I mean, 94 speed on the Glade Riders, 90 on Wild Riders. Dryads really aren't all that slow either. They've got 43 foot speed. Way Watcher's pretty quick. Glade Guard are on the slower end, as well as the Eternal Guard, but they're, you know, perfectly capable line holders with their shields and good melee defense.
One of your victory points. Take it back.
Pretty gnarly casualties. The Skink Priest of Beasts is putting in a lot of work here. 2,000 value on this guy with just Flock of Doom. Really beautiful, honestly, from him, but it's come at the expense of the rest of the army, just not trading all that well, and a lot of that is just due to the over-aggression early on. Like, I love all the early cavalry. It's a really good idea to have a lot of cavalry early on, but just bring out more skink cohorts, and bring some skink cohorts with the javelins, because those guys do some seriously nasty damage to all of the low armor Wood Elf units. Even stuff like Dryads can get pretty heavily damaged by the skink cohort javelins, because they get 3 volleys. They do respectable damage, and there's just not a lot that the 40 armor of the Wood Elves is going to be able to do to hold them up under the weight of fire from those guys. And they're 450 gold, which is cheap as hell for a unit that can uptrade so nicely with a ranged javelin and still perform decently in melee combat. Really good bait here. Tato pulls back the Wild Riders, while the Hunters of Kurnus get up on the flank. And bye-bye, Cold Ones. Not going to be able to survive very long against this elite anti-large AP cavalry. Seem just nibbling their way down onto the rear of this fight, where the Wild Riders have them fixed in place now. It's going to be a decisive victory for the Wood Elves here. Potato was the winner of the tournament. And just played well like this all freaking day, man. It's honestly really impressive. I'd probably struggle playing in a Potato. If he plays like this on a regular basis, he will be a pretty scary Wood Elf main in the more advanced tournaments even. Salamander's getting some shots off, not really able to pay for themselves though, still struggling quite a bit, but another beautiful Flock of Doom. Not the overcasted version, but still getting some decent work in against the Wild Hunters and the Wild Riders, but just gassed at this point, man. Like, just not enough bodies on the field for the poor Lizardmen. See how beat up the Wood Elves are. I mean, considering they've got a 4,000 gold lead, it's really not as overwhelming of a presence as you would think for that much money. But that's really because of how squishy the elves are in general. Wood Elves just do a better job than the other elf factions of kind of working around that. Beautiful damage on the Chameleon Stalkers. Wow, the Glade Riders. They definitely got one over on these little guys. Chameleon Stalkers are a respectable unit, but I would be bringing them in to try and counter Dryads and really not much else. I don't know how good they're going to be in this matchup, if I'm going to be for real. What Chameleon Stalkers seem to perform best against is actually stuff like War Wagons, as well as ambushing artillery crews. Against infantry, they tend to be pretty poor fighters. Especially against something like a Dryad, which gets around their Phys Res. I don't really like that engagement for the Chameleon Stalkers. Welcome, welcome, guys. How's it going? Yeah, look at the value on the missile line, dude. You just can't let the Wood Elves get away with this. If their Glade Guard are like doubling up on value all the way across the board, and the Way Watchers are, you know, either paying for themselves or getting one over on you and also doubling their value, that's just never gonna work. The Wood Elves are just too cost effective in melee compared to the other elf factions for you to be able to make it up anywhere on the field. They're just consistently ferocious, man. No shame in losing to them, though. This is kind of a hard matchup for the Lizards. If you mix in some Chameleon Skinks for the opening, I think it gets a little bit easier. In fact, you know what? Let's actually go see what the win rate on Total Tavern looks like for that matchup right now. I'm probably playing in this tournament later, by the way. I might not stream it though. Might be a little too tired for all that. I'm also rusty. I don't know if I want to show off how mediocre my micro is going to be after all this time. I don't have high hopes for it. Oh yeah, they're all the way up here, and actually Lizardmen, yeah, Lizardmen a slight advantage for the Wood Elves here. Not too terribly surprising, just Lizardmen, a lot of their expensive units are very reliant on being like heavily armored for survivability and don't have amazing stats, so the Wood Elves having very high stats and also having tons of AP on the roster, definitely not going to be too favorable for them. You can do the Red-Crested Lord. I mean, 650 gold is kind of hard to beat in terms of cost for a Lord. Literally just hide them on the map somewhere so that you can try and keep them alive as long as possible. And you can bring your Skink Priest. I do love Flock of Doom. Very effective. Lord of Heavens isn't bad, though. Wind Blast is pretty short range, but on that map you do have that big central pillar you can hide behind and use it to cast safely from. Kind of roast down a lot of units just by hitting them with the 20 damage in that cone. Flock of Doom's more consistent, though, so going with it, also not a bad idea. And you can bring this guy for, like, dirt-ass cheap. 450 gold. Absolutely no investment at all. Chameleons, and Cohort with a couple Javelins, 3 Javelins, something like this. And this is a pretty good matchup for Saurus Spears. Bring them in reserve as a anchor piece for after you've done your initial push to try and deal with your opponent's missile line. You'll see some serious dividends if you go for something like that, because the Saurus Spears are just so good at holding off not just cavalry, but they even trade okay into stuff like Dryads and Eternal Guard because of the weapon strength these guys have and respectable melee defense. They're defensively oriented enough that they're able to hold up very well in those combats while you bring out units to peel for them. I don't know if you need to go with too many Spear Riders. A couple of them isn't bad, but Wild Riders do have, like, Fizz Res and stuff, which, with already low armor totals, so the AP really isn't that useful, and it's very rare that you're going to be able to catch a Wild Rider just because of the speed difference. You need to focus your efforts at diving on catching the missiles, and for that, a Feral Cold One's going to be just as effective in a lot of ways. I mean, they've got decent charge bonus with good weapon strength. If they're able to catch something like a Way Watcher, they're going to rip them apart pretty quickly because they Way Watchers have okay stats in melee combat, but they don't hold up too well because of their HP pool, which is only 5,600. On 60 models, it's not bad, but with the good weapon strength that Feral Cold Ones have, it starts to add up in a very short period of time. Bastillodons with the solar engines, if you want to go for a ranged piece, instead of doing that Stegodon, instead of going with the Stegodon, who's got the ballista just doesn't have a lot of utility here. A solar engine is just, like, custom built for brutalizing the Wood Elves, because not only do you lower stats and do good damage with magic attacks and flaming attacks, but you do lower accuracy with the blinded effect. You can use solar engines to counterfire Way Watchers whenever they reveal themselves, and the Way Watcher volleys will be way less accurate, and that'll allow you to close the gap without taking nearly as much damage, which is really important in this matchup. Because if Way Watchers are able to just shoot you to death, then you might as well just concede after the first dive attempt. Because the Wood Elves will 100% shoot you off the field from there on out. Do something like this. Having a Salamander in reserve isn't a bad idea. Cheap, cost-effective, good for clearing out Durthu if your opponent went for Durthu. Durthu is something that you do need to worry about at times. He's actually got some really good spells and combat potential against the lizards. With 2,200 gold left. What do you want? Honestly, Ripperdactyl's probably not terrible in this matchup. Probably just one would be a good piece to have. Just to rear charge any infantry fights where they can just, like, shred through something really quickly would be fairly useful. And maybe, like, the Legion of Chaqua or something. One more Skink Skirmishers. Oh, we're out of 360 shooting. Alright, well that's a bit of a shame, but here's like a good starting point for like a build against the Wood Elves. There's other ways you can go about it, but that's a build that won't change the identity of what Sean was bringing too terribly much. Oh, damn it. Of course we do. That's so annoying. I'm so sorry, guys. It wouldn't be a stream with me if I didn't leave y'all on the wrong screen at least once, right? Let me just rebuild it fast for you. Here you go. Got your Skink Priest in reserve. I mean, this guy's 450 gold. You should be able to summon him in pretty quickly. Bring more Feral Cold Ones. Cheap, easy to bring out. Couple Spear Riders. One Ripper Dactyl. Sally. Yeah, I mean, a couple more Javelins. And then your Source Spears. And with 1,100 gold, just get whatever you want. It can be anything and everything. A Source Scarvet wouldn't be a bad idea, actually. Get him on the cold one and bring Colossal Strike. And you've got, like, one character that's capable of taking fights in melee combat against something like a dragon. Which is something that is... potentially in the Wood Elves' wheelhouse here. You know, Sisters of Twilight pretty good up in the sky on their dragon. Glade Lords can also come in on the Forest Dragon. It's not totally outside the realm of possibility for the Wood Elves to be bringing those in. Sorry about leaving you on the wrong screen, guys. Just checking something on Discord. Alright, this is an interesting build. Let's see if Hallman has the Skull Cannon tech down. The Soul of Damnation is a super meta artillery piece for the Warriors of Chaos, but Skull Cannons are actually able to kill it, believe it or not. If Hallman doesn't pull it off here, I'll show you how to do it myself. Thank you, man. Appreciate you sticking with me on it. Skull Taker, an Exalted Hero on Juggernaut. Oh, on horseback. The Exalted Heroes are okay. I've never really been partial to them. I think they're fairly limited in terms of like the utility that they provide. Because Khorne already has really good combat characters as lords. They don't really need all these characters who do just about the same thing. Cultists are a little different because they have a summon and they provide a little bit of tankiness with their silver shield, so they can just like hold up on middle objectives and support the front lines still. Exalted Heroes don't do any of that. They're just like pure combat prowess, pure and simple. They don't really do anything all that crazy. And they're anti-infantry, so, you know, Khorne has plenty of anti-infantry to begin with. They've got, like, Bloodletters, they've got Skull Taker, who's an anti-infantry character. Skull Cannons are pretty good against foot characters as well. They've got a huge bonus versus infantry. Fairly weak melee attack, which isn't amazing, but usually able to hit consistently enough that they're 325 weapon strength. It's gonna be able to, like, make enough of a difference that you should be able to win just about any fight against foot characters. Also really weak to skirmish, because obviously they don't have a shield. And yeah, they're going to hold up really well against the base missile damage, but 8 AP on each one of the Horsemaster's javelins is going to add up pretty quickly against one of these Exalted Heroes. Doesn't have the heal, doesn't really have anything, just bare bones Exalted Hero chilling there. One Wrathmonger on the point here. Chaos Warriors moving up. Chaos Warriors really strong. They're going to be a great target for the Soul of Damnation. It should pretty quickly be able to kill them. It looks like Hallman's actually going for the snipe here. The Skull Cannons, unfortunately, are firing a little high right now. So there's two things that could be going on here. One, they're firing at max range. They're not really that accurate at max range. Two, you don't want to click on the Soul of Damnation. You want to target ground right behind the crew, actually, because what happens then is when the Skull Cannon fires, instead of trying to shoot the artillery piece, they're trying to hit a point on the ground back here. And the reason that's important is because if Skull Cannons miss, they tend to miss high. Alright, so if they're shooting at the Soul of Damnation, and they're trying to hit this big, giant pulsating fleshlight of doom. If they fire high, they're going to shoot all the way over the top of the cannon and miss it horrendously. If they shoot high, but they're shooting at the lower point on the map, right behind the Soul of Damnation, they might still hit the cannon itself, which is the important part here. You also don't want to throw Skulltaker too far forward. Actually got a good hit there. Gets a hit there. The Soul of Damnation might die here in a moment. Skulltaker does escape. You just want to be careful because javelin damage actually does rack up pretty quickly on our boy there. God, this thing hasn't died yet? Really? That's crazy. I'm honestly kind of shocked that the Soul of Damnation model is still up right now. This shot might kill it. Just barely missing over the top right now. Uncrewing the Soul of Damnation and running away. Wow, okay. Another thing, here's another thing. So, yeah, your opponent uncrewed the artillery piece, and yeah, you are targeting the artillery. So, when they uncrew it, and the crew runs away, your skull cannons are shooting at the crew. If you're targeting the ground, you're still shooting in the same spot, and you can still kill the cannon. Because you don't need to kill the crew. Killing the crew is kind of hard to do, because they're unbreakable. Killing the artillery piece is the more important part of that equation. I do like the tech, though, from Hallman. I hope it works out. Oh, beautiful shot. Soul of Damnation goes down, actually. Exalted Hero moving in, and the Chaos Warrior is going to be pretty free and easy for them. They're really not going to have too rough of a time of it against all these Marauders. Overextension on the Flesh Hounds, Rotting Riders, just obliterate them. You want to actually play fairly defensively with Flesh Hounds. Flesh Hounds are really there for mass. Diving into opponent backlines, you need like an overwhelming number of Flesh Hounds to do that. Typically speaking, if you're going to be going for like a warrior wall, bringing out stuff like Corngores and Wrathmongers, just to like scrap on the middle objectives and protect your skull cannons is a pretty smart way to go about things. Hall is a little slow to respond here. I do like moving Skulltaker around to the number 3 where he can kind of scrap and fight very safely away from Archeon. Archeon is just having a great time here. He beat up on Skulltaker a little bit. He's brutalizing the Exalted Hero right now. Skull Cannons are going to be pulling out. Decent value on them. 666 on that one, funnily enough. 738 on the other. Way too conservative with Wrathmongers. Getting them away from the skirmishers is fine, but this is a 1,500 gold unit that is, you know, like fairly slow. You really want Wrathmongers to be engaged in melee combat as long as possible. They're already super tanky and hard to kill. If they're forcing your opponent to like use all of their horsemen just to try and kill the Wrathmongers, it means that Skulltaker can kind of get away with murder, because he's very survivable, and he can get you a ton of value just by grinding through infantry. Whether it's chaff or more elite options, he will get you some really good value if you're able to utilize him in melee combat for an extended period. Very risky dive back here with Furies. Furies cannot be countercharged by anything because they will fold up on the leadership and crumble out, and they are quite expensive. 650 gold, you know, compared to a lot of other Khorne units, Furies are cheap. But here's the thing about Furies. You do not ever want to throw a Fury away. Furies should absolutely always uptrade. Furies are basically the missile units in a way for Khorne. That sounds a little wild. Seems maybe a little bit impossible, in fact, but Fury's damage output is incredible. They are so strong at trading into lightly armored troops and just clearing through them. Doubling up with Furies and having them dive one at a time, like fly 2 Furies into a fight like this, right? Furies have good mass, fly them over the top of the Rotting Riders, fix the Rotting Riders with one of the Furies, Have the other Fury just hover above and wait for your opponent to countercharge the Furies that are already engaged in combat. Then you land your Furies behind that unit, and you just layer your attack from there. If you can get Furies to trade, like, 800-900 value consistently per life, it's pretty hard for opponents to be able to deal with that, just because of how many infantry units you're able to put out as Khorne that just hold the line and uptrade tremendously. I mean, Khorne is has probably the best infantry in the entire game. The vulnerability of Khorne 8 infantry is to your opponent's mobile options, like skirmishers, rip them apart. Monstrous units tend to do a pretty good job of tearing them to pieces as well. And big single entities can be a little bit of a threat to them also. But if you play well with all of your supporting tools, like your horsemen, your fleshhounds, and your furies, usually the infantry are going to just be able to outgrind literally everything on the field. And winning on tickets is very doable for Khorne because of that. Usually Khorne loses by overextending. I mean, 9 times out of 10, I would even say that's how they take L's. Terror route going down here, very unfortunate. You know, Khorne 8 units do have ITP as long as Frenzy is active, but once that Frenzy wears off, they can route just like anything else because of terror-causing units, so I do like bringing the Rotting Riders here, not just for the utility of killing stuff like Skull Cannons and charging down Fleshhounds, but also just to like rear charge stuff and then cause Khorne 8 units to run away as the ITP wears off. Really good use of the Fleshhounds here, actually. This is what you want to use Fleshhounds for. They're annoyingly sticky against characters like Archaon. Archaon on horseback really doesn't have that much mass. He's got 1800. He is an absolute nightmare for Khorne characters to fight, right? But if you catch him with a Fleshhound, these guys have 450 mass each. Very quickly, if they surround him, he is not going to be going anywhere for a pretty extended period of time. They're crumbling now because the Lord is dead. That's a huge leadership penalty that the Fleshhounds can ill afford. If Skulltaker was still around, Archaon would probably be here for another, like, minute and a half, which is plenty of time to maneuver around and get good engagements as your opponent's big, scary answer to Skulltaker is occupied. Hallman falling behind a bit here. Really tricky stuff, man. Like, chasing after your opponent's skirmishers endlessly, really not that great for Khorne. You don't really want to spend time chasing things with your mobility. Well, like, if your opponent's going to run away with their horsemen, just whatever, fine. Rotate back and get your throwing axes online against the Marauders. Kill what you can kill, right? Like, blood for the Blood God and all that. Take the value in front of you. Don't be trying to just endlessly chase after skirmishers, because these guys don't even have ammunition yet. Like, they already got all of the value that they're gonna get, basically, because they could get some rear charges. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but, you know, most Khorne units are going to be able to hold up pretty well against that. Over here, the Chaos Warriors finally breaking. Total collapse here in the middle as well. And it's just going to be like a slow exsanguination of the Khorne from this point on. It's not like you can't bring your units back out and still be fairly competitive in this game. The opportunity to win, though, is pretty unlikely at this stage. Yeah, I mean, just having so many units so far forward on your opponent's home objective is kind of risky. Like, the Warriors of Chaos, their infantry was fairly low quality. They are not going to want to advance on you. Advancing up to the Warriors of Chaos here is putting yourself at risk of being surrounded by their mobility. There's no reason to do that. You can just sit back here with your 2 warriors, block up the number 2 from the front, And those Marauders might just sit there all game. And you can, like, make the decision to, like, rotate a Warrior over here if needed. Playing the positioning game as Khorne is almost just as important as just, like, actually charging stuff down and doing damage. Because you don't have magic, tactical maneuvering becomes way more important with Khorne than just about any other faction, because you do not have a way to just get, like, wild value swings. Like, that's kind of what Magic is here for. Magic is a supplement to your value trading. And Khorne not having it is one of the reasons why, even though they're amazing in melee and on paper they don't have that many weaknesses, they're still only about a 50% win rate faction. They just have to play so honestly. And you can't cover up for any positioning mistakes you made. And there were a few here from Hall, but nothing too egregious. And Hallman did get some pretty good trades to counteract some of it, but just here in the late game without Skulltaker, who got pummeled really badly early on by Javelins, Archeon, and the Soul of Damnation, your Fleshhounds and your other mobility tools are just not able to stick around, and that's just going to be a game there. Little unlucky on that one. For the future, yeah, look at the Exalted here. 192 value, brutal performance from him. That's why I don't really like them, man. They just don't have good AP. They don't have AP on the horse. They're just not that strong. Really, it was the skirmishers here that just brutalized Khorne. Like, the Warriors, they couldn't do anything to, really. But the Wrathmongers, Skulltaker, the Exalted Hero, and the Skull Cannons, they got some pretty damn good value against them. Next time, just push forward Chaos Warriors. Warrior Wall out your opponent's Marauders. Keep the Wrathmongers near the middle objective so that they can engage as soon as possible. And just make sure that your Skull Cannons have room away from the firepower of the Marauders, and you should be able to kill the Soul of Damnation and keep Skulltaker back for whenever the front lines engage, because at that point, without the Soul of Damnation, your opponent just doesn't have good answers for the Chaos Warriors and the Wrathmongers. Especially with your Skull Cannons firing in after killing the Soul of Damnation by like running down their own Marauders, screening a little bit by charging down Horsemen and the Horsemasters. Skull Cannons are actually fairly good at attacking Skirmish Cavalry, because Skirmish Cav don't have very good stats, and Skull Cannons have crazy high armor values. If they can engage in melee combat against the Skirmish Cavalry, and these guys can't use their Javelins to counterfire the Skull Cannons, the Skull Cannons actually are able to heal up in the combats against the Skirmish Cav. And that's where your Furies and the Fleshhounds can come in to provide some buffering. You bring the Minotaurs behind that, push up Khorngors as well to just dissuade your opponent from charging down the Skull Cannons. If you keep a Skull Cannon back and then use the Khorngors to, like, defend it by running the Skull Cannon into the middle of the Khorngors whenever your opponent approaches with something like Rotting Riders or Hellstriders or Trolls, the Skull Cannons will never take enough damage for them to die, for one. They'll probably be able to recharge some ammo and HP in that fight, and then the Khorngors will be able to just while away your opponent's, like, mobility's health with absolutely no worries. Because Khorngors, the problem with Khorngors is that they have a very hard time engaging in combat. If you can force your opponent to interact with Khorngors, that's where these guys can uptrade for days. It's just a shame that Khorne is always at such Khorne is kind of always behind on the initiative. They don't have that many ways to force opponents to interact with them. Skull Cannons are one of the few tools that do it naturally. Scarbrand with his rampages kind of does it. Same with Marauder Horsemen can kind of do it, but usually you're just like posted up, waiting for your opponent to make a positioning mistake that you can follow up on. See what we get here from some Bretonia. Bretonia has okay tools into Tzeentch. The big problem for Bretonia in this matchup is metal magic. I don't know how well Village is going to do here. We'll have to see. Usually, though, the best thing Tzeentch can do for Lord option and Magic option is a Chaos Sorcerer Lord with the with Searing Doom and Plague of Rust. Infernal Gateway is really not going to be able to do a whole lot here. It might be okay. I mean, Bretonia is not going to be able to clear all these Chaos Warriors with what they have right now. It's going to be a tall order, man. I mean, Mounted Yeomen aren't going to do anything. Spearmen at Arms and Men at Arms definitely not. And as good as Lewin is, and same with Henri, they are technically like single entity duelists. Not super skilled and capable of clearing out Chaos Warriors in any kind of timely manner. Just advancing up in a solid brick here, not a bad idea. Like, don't want to leave yourself vulnerable to potentially getting charged down by sending like one isolated Chaos Warrior or Pink Horror over to the number 3. This is your home objective. Your opponent has to go a long way to get units up on this point. You can much quicker respond there than they can. So allowing them a little bit of leeway to maybe take it early on and then just get up here and stop them isn't a bad call at all. And Freddy actually prevents it entirely. No cap at all for Bretonia there. Knights of the Lionhearted moving up. Really good unit. Against the demon factions, they're actually fairly versatile because of the magic damage. They can charge down infantry fairly effectively. Do still want to prioritize larger targets just because that's obviously where they have their bonus, but just because of their charge bonus, they are pretty capable of the dual purpose role. So they could charge down these pink cars given some time. Screamers moving up, Sensigors moving out. Definitely don't want to fight the Knights of the Lionhearted with Henri and Lewin above. Lewin has the Sword of Couronne, lowers melee defense and armor. A little bit too much to ask units to value trade when they have, you know, 0 melee defense and no armor. So running away here really is the right call. You don't have to be super duper aggressive 24/7, even if you are playing the Chaos factions. Being self-preserving with your forces is never ever going to be a bad thing. It might get you in trouble on victory tickets in the late game potentially, but almost always in domination mode you will have time to get a triple cap if you're good about like kiting your opponent around the map and then countercharging them as they overextend here. Mounted Yeomen Archers pushing past. Really, honestly, pretty good maneuvering here. Getting them around the edge there and getting them up and through so that they can go and support their friends. Actually, these guys were on the number 3 already, so they came from the other side. I was wondering how they snuck through here, but they didn't. I'm sure you saw the Infernal Gateway. That's just not something that you should ever let your Mounted Yeomen Archers get caught in. There's a big indicator when it's being cast. And as far as I know, Infernal Gateway doesn't trap cavalry. I think Rareneg was just, you know, microing stuff back here. And this is just way too deep to go, man. Like, that is a huge overextension on these units. you're in your opponent's deployment zone. You have to show people some amount of respect, right? They do a good job of killing the Screamers here. But the Knights of the Lionhearted are just absolutely screwed now. There's no way they're going to be able to get out of here, probably. I mean, the Cynagors are running a little too far away, but that's because Freddy is taking this opportunity to just hard push with the Warrior Wall and is kind of running over the Bretonnians. Bretonnia does get a good engagement on the Pink Horrors, but the Royal Pegasus Knights are now trapped between both of these units. The Chaos Warriors on one side, Pink Horrors on the other, taking fire from the Chromatic Abominations. You do have some pretty good damage output. They are able to get back up in the air thanks to their decent mass. They did get a mass increase in the last patch, so a little bit more capable of surviving, but you are losing the Knights of the Lionhearted here with really nothing to show for it. This is an expensive unit. This is a 1,200 gold Knight of the Realm, and they've got 300 value right about now, which is honestly pretty horrible. Acold and Village move over to the side objective, fighting together. The double foot character proving to be a little bit too much to handle for these anti-large duelists. I actually kind of like that from Freddy. I mean, maybe knowing something about this particular person's play style to take advantage of it. We get a massive win here for Tzeentch. I mean, not surprised at all. Bretonnia just shouldn't never ever let Warriors close the gap on their men-at-arms. I mean, in terms of value, it's not that big of a loss for Bretonnia, but there's not really any way to help this anymore. And with all the Warriors being basically full health, and having killed all the infantry, now there's nothing to really fix the infantry in place while the Knights are able to charge them down. Now the Warriors can just literally box up on this point, and there's no way you're ever going to kill them as Bretonnia now. Village is able to survive here. Really good micro, getting him out of that fight, and then road blocking with all of the bodies here. You got Zangors, you got Centaurs of Tzeentch. There's a beautiful Sword of Corone going down. It is causing a lot of problems for the value trading of Tzeentch right about now, but as long as they don't lose their lords, I think they're going to be okay. Centaurs didn't do all that well. Only 400 value here. Do get the Infernal Gateway going down. What kind of damage is this doing? Not a whole lot. I mean, Knights of the Lionhearted are basically dead. It's honestly doing more damage to the Zangors, I think. Looking a little dicey, I can't lie. I mean, both sides have things that are going well for them. Like, the character sniping is honestly going pretty nicely for Bretonnia right about now. You can see Village being terror routed here. His leadership might break in a moment. There it goes. Gets hit one more time by Henri. We do get the second tier army ability coming down, which does hit the Royal Pegasus Knights, doing some good damage. Another Royal Peggy here, trying to hang in. Down goes Village. Warrior Wall looking pretty healthy, though, and now going up to the home objective of Bretonnia. And Bretonnia is throwing Knights of the Realm right up the pipe into the Chaos Warriors. No cycle charging going on here. Knights of the Realm are not going to win a prolonged engagement. They're only going to be able to break these guys down if they're able to cycle charge. Even then, it's going to be an incredibly laborious process. Here's another issue that Bretonnia might run into. You got some Mounted Yeomen getting caught by more Centaurs out here. You've brought a massive air force. Absolutely gargantuan. Not only do you have a 2,400 gold lord in Lewin flying around, but you've also got Henri, who's another close to 2,000 gold character in the sky, plus the Royal Pegasus Knights, both of which are 1,600. You've got the value lead, but it's really not that advantageous, and your opponent has the vastly superior ground forces here. The amount of effort you're going to have to put in the mid to late game here to regain all 3 points is going to be pretty disproportionate to the work that any other faction is going to have to do, just because of the cap weight problems that Bretonnia has outside of their cavalry. I mean, men-at-arms are just awful at holding points. One Chaos Warrior is able to very easily outcap 3 men-at-arms or spearmen-at-arms. And you can see here that the value is evening up about now. Freddy is doing a pretty good job of staying after Henri, who is getting beat up pretty badly. Another thing here for Bretonnia is no caster. That's a big mistake. Bretonnia loves having magic. They need Flock of Doom to help them win mobility fights harder. The Lore of Life is really strong, especially for Bretonnia because of all the knights that they have. Being able to pick and choose engagements gets a lot better for you when you're able to disengage and heal at the same time, and then go right back in for seconds. I'm not so sure that Bretonnia is going to be able to get back in this one. You got Screamers locking down Lewin here. Acold, healthy as can be. He's got 1900 value, just about. He's put in a lot of work this game. Acold is a really good character. When he's able to fight against other single entities, my god, is he an absolute beast mode character. He's got this perpetual heal. He's got perfect vigor because of it as well. Thorn's aura really isn't that useful. Honestly, I would cut this. It just doesn't do a whole lot for you. It's too short of a duration. If this lasted 40 seconds, then Thorn's aura would be a good item, but otherwise, no. The melee damage reflection is not enough, and it's only 20 seconds. Miss me with that, please. At least it's in an AoE, but you're never going to be hitting enough units in that AoE for it to be worth it, even if you get, like, 1 or 2 other troops in there. Lewin's still getting hounded out by Screamers. Dude, look at the Screamer value. 700 gold unit, by the way. Up to 1600 now. I think this might be their second summon. Could be the same one that we saw earlier that went back into the pool. But being able to manhandle the Lionhearted here is really nice for Tzeentch. Knights of the Realm continuing to just grind into heavily armored infantry. Not going too well. Halberds moving up, Forsaken moving up. Some more pink horrors make their way out onto the field. First time around, they almost paid for themselves. Not too shabby at all. As long as the pink horrors are protected, they should be able to shoot away any Manadiomen that might come out. Just got a firm anchor on all 3 points now. Like, Bretonnia could get back here on the number 3, but again, that's the home objective. There's lots of angles to attack this from as Tzeentch. You can always move an infantry unit back and then bring out stuff from the vanguards or the regular deployment zones. And the Screamers have just wrecked Lewin over here, man. I mean, this is honestly pretty incredible performance from them. They do have quite a bit of bonus versus large here, and Lewin being exhausted, his melee defense is looking a little haggard at 45, so he's able to survive by the absolute barest of margins. And he will be able to heal because of the Ladies' Champion. If he had broken, he would have lost it, though. Even with all that healing, 3,700 on the way there, I don't think it's going to be enough. And yeah, the Forsaken get in with the Furies, and bye-bye Manadiomen. This is what Furies do, man. Such a gnarly unit when they're used appropriately. Discerning aggression as chaos is like the #1 thing you need, because the demonic units crumble so aggressively when their leadership breaks that very quickly you can just end up in a spiraling catastrophe. Tzeentch has a little bit of a better time because of the barrier they have on everything, but they don't have any extra stats by that same token. Surrounding Lewin, they're actually pretty good at surrounding single entities. They could do some pretty good damage to characters like Lewin, because his armor, once he's exhausted, only 68 armor. Furies do have 44 weapon strength, and they're small enough entities that most of these guys are able to get damage in on Lewin. Like, of the 52 models here, I would say that probably about 20 of them are actually attacking Lewin at any one time. Every time he kills one, there's one to replace them. And it's again, worth mentioning, 250 mass really isn't bad at all for an infantry-sized unit. It's actually pretty damn high. You compare that to something like a halberd. See, the halberd infantry here have 160, so you get like an extra 90 on the Furies. They have a better time surrounding targets as well as a flyer. Fairly good at locking stuff down, and that's going to be the end for Lewin. He is going to die here, I would guess. Maybe because of the flying combat being kind of janky, he'll escape, but Bretonnia, once they lose their lord, all their stuff is just going to run away. It's going to be really horrible for them. Chaos Warriors with pretty good value across the board, man. Really cost-effective performance from them this game. Woof. Yeah, nothing like armor checking Bretonnia, and they just can't do anything about it, man. Blessed Trebuchet might have helped out a little bit, but honestly, there's just not a lot of answers that Bretonnia has for that kind of a play style. Chromatic Abominations with some decent value. Pink Horrors did okay. A-Cult did awesome. Village, a lot less powerful. I still think the Chaos Sorcerer with the Metal Magic would have been better. You can always just land him in the middle of stuff if you're worried about him getting caught in the air, but usually you'll be able to stay ahead of your pursuers. Bretonnia really needed the life magic or something, man. Not having any healing here is really painful, because you see the decent value that a lot of these units got. But the infantry's damage output is really low. The staying power in general for Bretonnia is really horrible as a result, so you have to be able to preserve your knights as long as possible. If you're not able to do that, typically speaking, your opponent is going to dogwalk you off the field once they've beaten your infantry corps. Let's watch the Shredder of Lustria do some work. Alright, so, Shredder of Lustria, absolutely insane single entity, massive damage output, great armor, great weapon strength, really good melee attack, almost impossible to handle for some factions. Khorne has a really awful time fighting the Lizardmen because they just don't have great ways to deal with both the combination of damage from the Shredder of Lustria, which beats like a lot of their single entities, as well as the poke from the other units that Lizardmen are able to bring up, like Salamander Hunting Packs, Skink Skirmishers, like mass numbers of Skink cohorts mucking up everything. The Greenskins, though, have options here. They've got Fermented Fungi, so they can get rampages on the Shredder whenever they want, really. They've got good missiles, no Morgrubs. Oh, they're the Morgrubs. Morgrubs Meiji Marauders have great AP, 10 AP damage per shot, and they fire really quickly. Honestly, using the Morgrubs to exclusively shoot at the Shredder of Lustria is not a bad idea here. Will be kind of hard to kill it because of the Rev Crystal and the Slan Mage Priest. Another thing you can do is try and cap all 3 points and just play keep away from the Shredder. People don't talk about this enough, but in domination mode, it's objectives based. You don't have to kill the big monster. You can run away from the big monster all game. I've beaten the Shredder of Lustria by ignoring it before. It got like 4,000 value, but 4,000 value on the Shredder of Lustria really isn't that good because it does cost 3,700 to begin with. The only way that the Shredder of Lustria beats you is if it's able to soak up a ton of damage, get its value back. That's one way. The other way is it gets like 9,000 value, just raffle stomping your entire army, which is very possible for it. It is definitely able to just go absolutely ham on massive infantry formations because of its collision attacks. As it's like charging over units, it'll rack up like 30-40 kills at a time just by trampling down infantry. It is pretty vicious, not to mention the combat potential it has against other single entities. Night Goblin Warboss getting wrecked right now, which is really not great. I mean, already a fairly squishy character. Salamander's taking him down to about half health. Really good Tormentor Sword to escape from the Shredder. And a good follow-up from the Broken Tusk Mob. Fermented Fungi right about now. Beautiful cast. Hell yes, dude. Is TMD going to be able to do anything? The problem is that you are not going to be able to do a lot of damage in melee against this thing. The Boar Boy Biggins have gotten about 250 value. But look how much damage they've taken. I mean, the Shredder is just so good at killing everything in melee combat. It's got so much weapon strength and it's so efficient at dealing that damage, but by the time units get down to about half health, they're not going to be able to stand and fight under the Shredder because of the Dread Aversion lowering leadership. Plus it causes fear, plus it causes terror, plus it causes the damage by artillery debuff with the Howdah on top. It debuffs leadership by about 36, which is kind of insane. It is its own terror-bombing monstrosity. It's pretty heinous what it can do. Running away here, getting all the heals in the world. A lot of damage being healed up. Team D with a slight lead, but what does that really mean when a unit like the Shredder of Lustria is just going to walk away and get so many heals, right? It's not really functional damage until the Shredder of Lustria is totally dead. And it's honestly looking pretty good right about now. It's starting to get a lot of terror routes. Orc Boys running, Broken Tusk Mob moving back in, looking to charge down the Bastillodon. Not really worth the effort. Solon's are really tanky, even against stuff like Boar Boy Biggins, because of its immune to flanking. It's really hard to drag these things down. Got some infantry over here that you can maneuver back around. Anxious Salamander is a good target for the Broken Tusk Mob. Hopefully they can do something here, but there's Colossadon Hunters moving in. Getting a really good engage here. And the Skink Cohorts starting to move up the field now. Looking to try and compromise the Greenskins missile line right about now is not bad. If they can occupy the missiles while the Shredder of Lustria clears out the front line, then the Lizardmen should be able to overrun the rest of this Greenskins army. Team D does have the lead. Beautiful Shield of the Old Ones here. Shredder of Lustria almost healing capped already. Only 1,200 value on this bad boy, but looks like it's going to be bulldozing up into the back line. Oh no, and the Rusty Heirs get terror routed at the worst possible moment by the Bastillodon of all things. And their leadership breaks. That's huge because these guys are providing the armor sundering, which is giving the Shredder a little bit less defenses, causing it a few problems. Constantly charging the Shredder with melee cavalry and monstrous infantry just never works out because it's just going to ignore these guys. I mean, it's going to kill them and then just charge everything else down. Honestly, the best thing you can do with mobility against a Shredder build is use the mobility to actually pummel the remainder of the Lizardman army and try and leave the Shredder just like out in the middle of nowhere with the missiles just pounding it from every possible angle. Another thing that you could do is make sure that you've got your cavalry to countercharge the Ripperdactyls. Colossadon Hunters landing on top of the Savage Rook Air Boys. Do have some Boar Boy Biggins back here. More Boar Boy Biggins coming in. all the biggins, man. Every last biggin that could possibly be summoned in. Out on the field, goblins are fighting the Umbral Tide, which is nice. Definitely good engagement for the greenskins there. Legion of Chaqua and the Slan Mage Priest trotting together, doing a very good job of maintaining their formational discipline, not over stretching themselves, and making it very difficult to snipe the very squishy Lord, who is just going to be able to persevere and drop heals for the rest of the army, for the rest of the game. Shredder with 2,000 value, you know, got good ways to go before it pays off its cost. I don't know if that's really going to be all that necessary, though. I mean, the greenskins are kind of getting folded up right about now. They've got infantry on the points, but now their missiles are starting to suffer, and the biggins just can't stay in combat against the Shredder, man. I mean, oh my god. Another terror route. We got the Colosson Hunters going in. They're the ones who get hit by the Spirit Leech. I mean, I know the Shredder of Lustria is got next to no HP, but it's still got 2,000. I mean, let's not kid ourselves here. That's plenty of HP for a monster that has such high leadership to still be able to get a few decent attacks off, get a little bit of extra value. Savage Orc Biggins moving in, Colosson Hunters hanging around. Lizardmen, are they going to be able to do anything here? They're taking the number 2 objective, or they're actually holding it. Greenskins are trying to retake it. Oh, they got a lot of Orc Boys on the point now. Greenskins re-secure the number 2 objective here soon, then maybe they'll have a fighting chance, although now that I say it, losing momentum on it again. Last fermented fungi goes down on the Ripperdactyls, which is nice, but they did get pretty respectable value, all things considered. Shredder of Lustria. Oh no, did it die? Oh no, not the Shredder. Oh, it might have rattled off the field, actually. What the hell is it? I think it actually rattled off the field while we weren't looking. I really thought it was still going to be around, but really good work by TMD to be able to take it out. It's just a question of whether Rika is going to be able to use the remainder of the army that's been trotting up since then to hold on to these 2 objectives. Rev Crystal should probably rotate back. I mean, it doesn't have the same opportunity to be aggressive like it did earlier, because earlier it was getting away with murder because your opponent was focused on the Shredder. You still want to get the remaining 3 heals on this Rev Crystal off, so playing back and playing defensively with it would be really nice, because those heals would be really good on these Saurus Spears and the Saurus Warriors. Ancient Salamander is going to be firing some shots off here. If it gets them unobstructed. Always check your missile units, man. Nothing worse than giving an attack order to your single entity artillery and it's just obstructed for like 5 straight minutes and you don't notice. Clicking on them on occasion mitigates the possibility of that happening, because it becomes pretty clear pretty quickly if they are or aren't shooting, because you can just look at the ammunition and see if they've fired any time recently. Nice shot there. Hitting the Rusty Arrows, getting them fairly low. Rusty Arrows is some pretty good value. Charging down Savage Orc Biggins with the Pock cohort. A very bad idea. Not what they're suited for at all. They take a lot of unnecessary damage in that process, too. The Saurus Warriors are more than adequate to beat Savage Orc Biggins. You don't need the cavalry engaging here. The cavalry have nothing to gain by being engaged in this fight here. The cavalry should rotate around and run down all these goblins, because guess what goblins are really bad at? They're really bad at fighting big, scary lizard cavalry. They do not want to fight the giant Dionyscus lizard people. Add on to the fact that there's devastating flanker on the Pock cohort, and if they're getting rear charges on these gobos, very quickly, you're going to route them off the field because you're doing extra damage and goblins have low leadership, so they'll break fairly quickly, and then you can just have your Saurus be the ones moving up to take these fights in the front line. Wow, the Saurus getting folded up here. What the hell is going on with the Saurus? Oh my god. Oh, they may have gotten hit by Fate of Buna. In fact, I think that might have been what happened here. I didn't hear it going off, though. Man, the poor Saurus getting absolutely run over. Legion of Chaqua hanging in there, doing their best, but they are surrounded and getting shot by the Savage Orc Arab boys. Honestly, Greenskins, a few moments in the game where I was a little bit skeptical of the overall trajectory. But retaking their home point and pushing the Lizards onto the back foot here, with the River Troll Hags starting to beat up on the Slan Priest of Life here. The Slan has really awful melee defense. So even though River Troll Hags don't have very impressive melee attack, their AP split on the weapon strength is pretty nice. They'll still be able to hit fairly effectively against this guy, so having her in melee combat against him I really don't mind. Night Goblin Warboss just chilling on the edges of the battlefield. Doesn't need to do a whole lot. All you do with this guy is use the abilities. Once he's out of abilities, like no fermented fungi, no bosses, loons, maybe you send him in every now and then in case Spite of the Bad Moon is needed. Or you can use the Tormentor Sword, but otherwise you just keep him back and your opponent can never kill the Lord, and then you just swarm your opponent with numbers and cost-effective cavalry, which is the bread and butter of the Greenskins, truthfully. Just Orc Boys and Boar Boys into the sunset is the most meta way to go about Greenskins. Has been for a while, probably will be for a while longer. They got some cool tools the last DLC, but none of them are particularly amazing. Generally, just going wide and making sure that you get the wah as often as possible is the ticket to success as the Greenskins. Biggin's running away here, but Broken Tusk Mob coming back out, looking to chase down the Umbral Tide. Rupert Dactyls flying overhead. Where are they going to be going is the question. They don't have a lot of good engagements to take, honestly. You do need to save the Slan. Be nice to save the Rev Crystal. Rev Crystal has gotten all of its heals out for the most part. There's one in the bank remaining. It's going to be game. Lizard's thrown into the towel, recognizing the writing on the wall. Shredder just didn't get that much value. And it did die. That's the most important part, right? I mean, you can do all the damage in the world, but if you don't kill it, then it's going to be a massive issue in the mid to late game. Even if the Shredder is down to like 4,000 or 3,000 HP, that's still a decent enough amount of HP to use just for the terror routes that it provides and the leadership debuffing, especially against a chaff-heavy faction like the Greenskins. Outside of the early fumbling with the War Boss and a couple of sketchy moments with the Boar Boy Biggins being sent in to die at the hands of the Shredder, all went pretty well. A couple of those charges were necessary just because you don't want it to close the gap on your missiles, which are really the only effective way to shoot it down. Ignore it is probably your best bet. I mean, that honestly kind of is the best bet. Lizards a lot of times, honestly, this isn't really even that great of a build to support the Shredder. I mean, the Lifecaster, yes, but you don't really need the Rev Crystal heals for the Shredder. Honestly, you can go with the Lifecaster and then just bring some Skinks for cap weight, bring some Skirmishers. Umbral Tide comes out of reserve first, and then you just follow it up with a bunch of Cold One Spear Riders, and that's usually all you need. And that would probably be able to handle the Screenskins build at that point. Just because with Skinks, the reason you want Skinks is because you want the Skinks to just, like, run in and try and swarm over your opponent's missiles. Because if you shut down your opponent's missiles, and your opponent has to engage the Shredder in melee combat, the Shredder in melee combat is just impossible to kill for pretty much everything. I mean, it loses only to, like, 2v1s against obscenely powerful single entities. I'm talking, like, Scarbrand and the Bloodbrute Behemoth type of double teams. It's pretty ridiculous, the kind of performances it can pull off. If you just occupy the missiles with your Skinks and then have the Shredder push into the backline and then run over the missiles themselves, that can sometimes be just an auto win for the Lizards. If you just commit yourself to running it around in circles, though, deny it value, deny your opponent the opportunity to heal the big monster, use your mobility to run over the rest of the army, and you should be able to secure a win from there. I mean, it's not like the easiest thing to do. It's certainly something that is on a timer and kind of on the razor's edge, but it's definitely been my most consistent way of dealing with the Shredder, because I play Khorne a lot, and Khorne hates fighting the Shredder of Lustria, dude. It is crazy. I mean, you really do have to go with, like, Scarbrand and the Bloodbrute if you're going to try and kill it. Otherwise, if you are playing Khorne and you go with, like, Valkia, backed up by tons of horsemen, you can do damage to it. But the Lizards are going to be able to shoot down the Marauder Horsemen, usually. And that's just a really feels bad moment. Getting into our next match, we've got the Arcane Phoenix Goon Squad. Honestly, very powerful units. And flying around with Alarielle, too. Alarielle got the Martial Prowess back on her Eagle, so she's much tankier than she once was. She used to only have 40 melee defense, which made her pretty squishy and easy to kill. Just by, you know, fighting her with just about anything could kill her. Getting the extra stats has helped her pretty tremendously, and she still heals better than just about any other caster in the game with Earthblood, the lore passive, and then Star of Avalorn is the real selling point here. The Star of Avalorn lasts for ages, full 21 seconds, and it does have a small radius on it. The effect range is pretty bad, but just using it to heal an Arcane Phoenix while it's engaged in melee combat on the ground, you will probably be able to keep it in the radius for the full duration, and it'll heal a substantial amount of its HP and get close to the heal cap, just by using that one item. Spearman hanging back on the number 2. This is not where Khorne wants to push. They should rotate around to the number 1. Don't push your opponent's home objective in a situation like this. Your opponent has big, scary single entities that can kill your lord, for 1. 2, even if they don't kill your lord, and you're just running with your lord, they can still rotate down to drop their vortexes on top of your infantry, which is going to be absolute hell for you. There's really not a whole lot you're going to be able to do to stop that. And Ember Storm hits hard. I mean, this will have the HP of something like a Marauder or even a Chaos Warrior. Chosen will hold up a little better because they have 130 armor, and Ember Storm does have pretty good AP values. God, let me click on it. There we go. But it's 50%, so 6 AP on a Vortex is respectable damage to something like Chosen, but they will be mostly fine. You see Khorne getting up into the Spearman here. Pretty nice Sloupnir on the Swordmasters of Hoeth. Respectable damage for sure. Hellforged Bellowers looks like it's going to be the target for the Arcane Phoenixes now. What you do here is you run it back to the Minotaurs, and have the throwing axes actually countercharge the Arcane Phoenixes for now, while the Minotaurs, you know, like, close the gap. Just trying to think of the right word. If you can do that, if you get the Arcane Phoenixes locked on the ground fighting Minos, Minos are gonna kill these birds. Minotaurs, this is like the best monsters infantry unit in the game for killing large targets. Minotaurs of Khorne are super meta, literally always have been, and actually got a small buff this last patch because they got Woodsman and Hide in forests. Previously, they didn't have either. That makes a big difference for their performance, because they can actually fight in forests now, and the weakness of Khorne Minotaurs is shooting, so they often want to be hiding in forests, and what opponents could do is, while you're hiding your Minotaurs in the forest, they could then, like, alpha strike them and just, like, tar pit them, and the Minotaurs would be debuffed while they were standing in there, and it'd be really annoying and frustrating. Now you don't have to worry about that. Swordmasters of Hoeth scrapping against Chosen, and Bloodletter summons. Oh my god, the Bloodletter summon with 400 value. It's a 200 value summon, so them getting double their value back, we still have a lot of room left before it's all said and done, is pretty incredible. Lucaron is getting folded up by Final Boss right now. Hellforge Bellowers has not been the biggest part of that, though. The Arcane Phoenixes are not being used properly. They have spent way too much time chasing Valkia around, and Valkia's been very capably supported by Furies. The Furies keep coming in to provide buffering and damage around her, while the front line for Khorne just slowly drags down all of the Spearmen. And Spearmen are just not good against Khorne, because they're lightly armored, and yeah, their melee defense is really good, but Khorne Marauders, when they have Frenzy active, have 44 melee attack, and then you gotta worry about Forsaken, you gotta worry about charges from Minos, you gotta worry about the Skull Cannons. It's a lot that Spearmen are gonna get wrecked by. Really, the best builds for the High Elves in this matchup, and really their most viable ones, all tend to be just single entity cheese. Like, you'll definitely piss some people off, but who cares? I mean, that's just your winning strategy, and they've got to learn to adapt to that. Use the Arcane Phoenixes to kill the stuff like the Chosen. Like, you can double up the Ember Storms on the Chosen to finish them. Like, what you can do, you fly over, you drop one Ember Storm, wait a couple of seconds, fly the other Arcane Phoenix over, drop the Ember Storm, kill the Chosen. When you're leaving the Minotaurs exposed to fighting those big monsters, and they're good at killing, like, a monster one at a time, but if there's two Arcane Phoenixes attacking Minotaurs, it's a little bit scarier for them. And then if you're using the Ember Storms to kill the elite infantry, then you should have a little bit more support for your single entities when they take the fights against the Minos. Hellforge Bellowers is shooting Alarielle, doing some damage to her. It's just not that efficient against single entities. I mean, it's pretty accurate, and the not the Vortex, but the missiles actually do pretty respectable damage for each of them. But you can see here, it's around like the 300 mark, which just isn't making enough of a difference. The Hellforge Bellowers is much better against, it's good against aerial units, in the sense that what it's good at shooting is multi-entity flying units. And what I mean by that is stuff like Changebringers, Angels of Decay, Pegasus Knights, Furies. Furies are a really good target for the Hellforge Bellowers. Shooting Alarielle is wearing her out a little bit, but she's still fairly healthy. she can still drop heals, and she's just not that big of a threat for you. Valkia dies, the Arcane Phoenix finishes her off. Very sad. Look at her here. She did her best. Once she ran out of Furies, that was kind of game set match for her. Fleshhounds find an engagement against the Rahagger's Pride. Fleshhounds actually are really good against Warlions of Trace. Warlions are an anti-infantry unit. Fleshhounds are a little bit more generalist. I mean, not like amazing stats overall, but they do have the edge because of their physical resistance, for one, and also the really low armor that the White Lions have. The War Lions have 35 at base and down to 26 right now, so the Fleshhounds just get a wonderful, wonderful value trade here. I mean, it's a 1050 gold unit, the Rahagger's Pride here. Losing them definitely hurts. Chosen very beat up. Did we finally get Ember Storms? Where are the Ember Storm uses? Okay, so here, it's not really a hot take, I guess. Oh, we did get one Ember Storm used, okay. There is no point bringing Arcane Phoenixes if you're not going to use Ember Storm aggressively. At that point, you can just bring a Frostheart Phoenix. Because the Frostheart Phoenix's stats really aren't that far off of the Arcane Phoenix. And they get a slow at that point, and I don't know, man. I mean, Arcane Phoenixes are good against single entities and killing characters like Valkia, but really they want to be focusing on killing some elite infantry first, giving the High Elves a leg up in the ticket game, and then you can go after all the other units that you might want to fight with them. Bloodwake Berserkers come over to defend the Hellforge Bellowers. 1200 value. They're finishing off the Puremain Company here. They're going to be able to help against the Arcane Phoenixes. Is the Hellforge Bellowers going to be able to hang in here, man? Final Boss does have a value lead, but honestly, I think it's a little deceptive now. There's been a lot of Furies crumbling, and you had to save up a bunch of supplies to get Valkia back out. If you lose the Bellowers, that's going to leave the Bloodwake Berserkers all alone, and then Sisters of Avalorn are just going to shoot them to death. In fact, the Hellforge Bellowers needs to rotate to the outside of the formation and get a shot off on the Sisters. Otherwise, Khorne could lose, as both these units just get absolutely pincushioned to death. Valkia's trying to get over here. She's really good at clearing Sisters of Avalorn as well. Like a cast of Sloughnir right down the line on one of these units takes the Sisters of Avalorn down to about 2,000 HP, if they're at full health. If it got used on them right now, they would just die completely. I'd really like to see that being prioritized right now. I mean, sending Valkia to try and rout these Silverhelms before they cap the point is fine. Fleshhounds moving up, Bloodwake Berserkers with great value, as always. I mean, just such a great unit, man. Very rare that Bloodwake Berserkers don't uptrade. 1750 gold. Crazy high combat stats. Basically impossible to kill unless you skirmish them to death. Valkia being 2v1'd again by these Phoenixes, man. Good peel, though. Get the Fleshhounds over, and they are able to trap the Phoenixes. Now, Fleshhounds are also pretty good against the Phoenixes, because they've got good mass. Although right now, not surrounding and stopping the Arcanes from getting on top of Valkia, and Valkia again caught by the 2v1. Dropping HP pretty quickly. Just trying to run away. It's just so hard for her to disengage against these things, because they're so much faster than her. Valkia has 95 speed in the air. Arcane Phoenixes have 120 at base. So, She's not very good at running away. Honestly, just landing her in infantry and keeping her safe there is probably the best way to go about keeping the Arcane Phoenixes at bay. Berserkers fighting against the Fireborn. I don't think that Khorne's going to be able to do this, man. They just don't have anything high quality on the field. And the Elf faction here, I mean, the High Elves have actually gotten some pretty good healing out of Alariel and have been able to preserve a decent number of their forces. So that I think that Khorne, like, maybe a few minutes ago they did have a small value lead, but by this point, the difference in value with all the demonic crumbling, as well as all the healing for the High Elf units, definitely means that Lucrion's probably functionally up by about 1,000 value in terms of what's actually out on the field. Because you got, like, Fleshhounds, a Marauder, and Valkia, who's at, like, 2 HP with a throwing axe being chased down by Illyrian Reaver archers. That ain't gonna cut it for a late-game situation like this. I mean, it's damn close, and you definitely want to bunker up on the number 3, just in case your opponent fumbles in the late game, but I would not be counting on getting any kind of win here. Beautiful Sleipnir on the Spearmen, but not using it on the Sisters of Avalorn is a mistake. Trying to kill Alariel right now is kind of a waste of time, because the High Elves have better leadership than you, even if their lords die. Like, they just have higher leadership on everything. Like, 70 being the low end of leadership is pretty crazy to be talking about for, like, the infantry. And I think Illyrian Reaver Archers and Illyrian Reaver Cav with 64 leadership might actually be the lowest leadership units on the High Elf roster. No, that's not right. War Lions are at 55. So never mind. I don't know. I mean, sniping Lords is good if you can do it, but trying to do it in the late game when you really just need to preserve your forces more than anything is rough. Ember Storms kind of got wasted this game. I mean, it's not like the biggest deal in the world since you got the win, but it would have made the ticket situation a little bit less pressing in the late game, because you could have used it on the Chosen early on your home objective just to roast them down, and then all you have to deal with is Marauders in the late game. Look how much damage that did. Literally, these guys just got nuked off the face of the earth. Beautiful sword, but it's too late. High Elves get the cap, and wave after wave of Marauder is just going to get cleaned up by cavalry, stuff off the points by tattered infantry. Any other reinforcements that come in will just be beelining up to that number 3 there. Terror routes also, you gotta remember that there are terror routes available with stuff like the Arcane Phoenixes trampling around. 3,200 value on this one. Where'd the other Phoenix go? Is it also in here? Where's the second Phoenix? Oh, it's way... What is it doing all the way out here? Was it chasing Valkia? Oh, yeah, it was chasing Valkia, wasn't it? 2,400 on it. Pretty good. Swordmaster's moving up. Marauder, yeah, Lord fled recently, just trying to get to the objective, but they just keep losing ground. Like, the High Tide was here. Now they're back here. Now all of them are being killed here. Oh my god, that's so brutal, man. Yeah, this happens to Khorne sometimes. There's really nothing worse than losing to a triple cap in the late game as Khorne. Keeping Valkia alive was probably the most important thing for winning this game. You could just land her in the Chosen if you want. That would help out. Make sure that you get the Minotaurs out and keep them in a position where they're able to countercharge the Phoenixes whenever they are actually able to land on the ground to try and fight her. through this game. No, you didn't throw the game. You just weren't really ready for your opponent's build. That's a big difference, you know? It's hard to deal with. Oh, what does Vampire Counts do to Shredder? Honestly, I don't know what Vampire Counts do against the Shredder. I don't see the Shredder of Lustria many times in that matchup, but probably they ignore it as much as possible and kill all of the other Lizardman units and just put like a bazillion zombies on the objectives, and the Shredder is going to be able to kill them, but it's going to be really cost inefficient for one. And 3 zombies are going to be able to hold the cap away from the Shredder for quite a while. Yeah, Chosen and 2 Phoenixes. Pretty rare to see, but honestly, the Arcane Phoenixes, I think, are pretty damn strong and potentially even meta for the High Elves, just because of how strong Emberstorm is and how good they are at trading into single entities. High Elves are honestly really good at going very tall. They're probably the faction that plays better than any other faction when they've got less than 20 units. Usually around 20 is like the lowest end in terms of numbers that I like to go for builds, but I've been seeing a lot of High Elf players winning tournaments even by going with super elite builds nowadays. And part of that is Lariel getting the buff, but also Eltharion is pretty good at helping out elite units. Just because Apotheosis is cost-effective as hell. 5 wins of magic and it's close to a 10% heal. He's also got the Mistwalker's Barrage, and that's really good for clearing out cavalry and stuff, so you can save money on the Fireborn. Just bring like tons of Silver Helms and stuff. There's a lot of things the High Elves can do nowadays. I actually really like them. I think they're a lot more powerful after all the buffs to their lords, because it's been slow and steady for the High Elves. They kind of got forgotten about in the transition to Warhammer 3, and they just never really recovered from all of that, but they've been getting attention the last few patches, and they have been very positive changes for the better. Like, the cavalry change was huge, and now Lariel not being abysmal dog water on the Eagle is also pretty massive. Eltharion also got the Mistwalker Barrage buff a few patches ago, too. I think of the same one as the cavalry change, so good stuff for them all the way around. Let's watch Pont versus Fly here. Div the Soul Grinder of Tzeentch, very powerful anti-large monster. It's got the little, like, 5 javelin projectile missile. It'll do really good damage to the shrine for sure. Not going to be super effective against anything else except the High Beastmaster. It's honestly not very good against stuff like chariots. I don't know why, but it just doesn't seem to hit very accurately, nor does the damage from it seem to be all that strong either. It might have something to do with the way that the bonus versus large is applied per shot. I'm not sure what the problem is there. Usually you just want it to hit single entities. Dark Rider's moving in. Also doesn't have that much ammo. It's only got 15 shots. Doesn't have any way to replenish that either with army abilities or anything, which is also kind of sad. We'll see about it, though. A lot of damage going down on the Marauder Horsemen. We do get a cap here, though, for Tzeentch, which is nice. They are going with a lot of bodies, so being able to take the objectives now, hang on to them for as long as possible before potentially needing to give some ground for the counter push. It's going to give them a good opportunity here to play the long game. for value, which is kind of what you need to do against elf factions in general. Elf factions are really strong in the skirmish phases and the initial engagements, and tend to fall off in the late game if you're able to keep things fairly equal. Nice transmutation of lead going down, actually. Yeah, I mean, not the most common spell in the world, but it does last for absolute ages, man. And that was a beautiful Searing Doom on top of the Bleak Swords. Punishing them really nicely. Soul Grinder here just sitting on the High Beastmaster. That's really all you want to do with this thing. Probably want to give it a slightly better line of sight, but... Oh, wow. Oh, no. The missiles got blocked by the chariots. Ouch, dude. And you saw that they really just didn't do anything to these Scourge Runners either. Kind of bounced off of them. I don't know, man. Maybe this thing is bugged or something. That's really sneaky. I don't think this is intentional at all. But the Soul Grinder of Tzeentch ammunition, not able to pierce through the cavalry and only killing 2 models. Oh my god, the Soul Grinder. Struggling pretty mightily now that the Beastmaster is getting a little bit of buffering. Chaos Spawn Summon moving out. Yeah, just keep it here. Just fight this infantry and do whatever damage you can. A little bit of poke against the Beastmaster, but you used a lot of ammunition up and you still haven't killed him. It's a little concerning. A push on the other side of the formation from Tzeentch. Not gaining a whole lot of ground, really. Kind of being delayed up for a little bit too long here, for my liking. Honestly, I would prefer to see you leave both Marauders here, rotate over the blues, and try and just shoot down the Bloodrack Shrine right about now. The Bloodrack Shrine is just in the middle of nowhere, with the Horsemen sitting on it right now, doing really good damage, and that little bit of extra firepower from the blues probably would be enough to take it out, because here's the thing, right? Blue Horrors, decent missile damage, not the most amazing thing in the world, but they do have fire damage, and that will stack with the Warp Flame that the Marauder Horsemen of Tzeentch apply to whatever they're shooting at, because they do lower the armor and imbue that weakness fire of 10%. Every little bit helps for blues. Like 3 or 4 volleys from them would have definitely gotten rid of this shrine, I think. And you just don't need to push your opponent's home objective, really. Just play a safer game that doesn't allow your opponent to just get free flanks off on you with their cheap cavalry. That's the big reason why I don't encourage this against Dark Elves. They just have, like, Dark Riders are dirt cheap and really good at killing stuff like blues, even pinks, and good at rear charging Marauders. As long as the Marauders are fighting something else, Dark Riders rear charging here will clean those guys up pretty quickly. It's just too much ground to leave open. If you had your forces a little more concentrated over here as well, you probably don't even lose the number 1. You got some Sour Guts moving up, gonna be able to get some good engagements. Chaos Warrior Halberd's gonna get hit by a beautiful Pit of Shades here. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that's a big ouch, man. And their shield was already popped when they got hit by this, which is really smart by Punt. How much value does the Sorceress have? You're probably going to end up with about 900 after this wears off. Actually, a little bit off. Hey, I mean, 700 value, not bad. You did see one really bad whiff on the Pit of Shades, but getting that effective damage against the Halberds here, who are like the line holder that the Tzeentch army is intending to rely on, is money. Because Zangors are a great unit, but they're a little vulnerable to the Dark Elves just because of all the cavalry and like Cold One Knights and Scourge Runner chariots. They can get run over pretty quickly. The halberds are a little bit better at surviving units like that, just because they have the bracing. And even when units like charge down halberds, if they're able to push out of them quickly, it's usually okay. But if they get stuck for any amount of time, that's where the halberds can like really pull those guys down. So just really nice targeting priority from Pont. Mr. Fly's not making any huge misplays. It's just this one push on the back objective that I think was the mistake. That's really about it. And then when you're getting into like really high-level games against experienced people, all it takes is like one overextension to lose a match. It might not be evident right off the bat, but I really do think that this was kind of the this is the kind of loss of momentum that you can ill afford on Chaos factions, since Chaos factions tend to be fairly expensive in Elite. Throwing away a bunch of chaff units who are line holders when you didn't really have any cause to be so aggressive back there isn't really that great for you. Soul Grinder has a few more shots left, but has been occupied in melee combat for quite some time now. Cold One Knight's also going to be able to drag this guy down. I love the Searing Dooms. I mean, that they've been fairly well placed, but I can't help but feel like, honestly, Mr. Fly's been a little unlucky with how they've shaken out. There have been some very inopportune moments where they've just been missing the targets that they've been placed on. Like, the best Searing Doom that we saw was there in the early game when it was cast on, like, a Bleak Sword, which really isn't that cost-effective of a use on Searing Doom. Good Pit of Shades just to clean up the remaining halberds. Do that just so that you can have the Cold One Knights crush the ranged units. Look at the Blue Horrors getting folded up, man. Oh my god. Cold One Knights have a lot of mass, and I don't know what it is about their charge bonus, but against certain infantry units, they just obliterate them. I mean, and it's not even close to proportional. Depending on what it is. I feel like it's mostly on chaff infantry where they do this. Elite infantry or mid-tier infantry seem to hold up a little better to their charges, but if they get a clean charge through something, bye-bye half your HP, man. It's that bonus and the weapon strength on them, I guess. It is just so nasty. There's always going to be some jank in a game that has, like, 500 plus unique units. So I can forgive the occasional unit that seems to have some, like, vaguely unbalanced things going on with it. It's not like Cold One Knights are oppressive in any way. It's not like Furies were for the longest time. Cold One Knights are one of the best units in the Dark Elf roster, but they do have their weaknesses. They're fairly slow at 66 speed. Their armor is nice at 90, but once they get tired, it's down in like the mid-60s, which is a lot less favorable. And then their actual combat stats are fairly low. I mean, they got 28 melee attack at base, only 30 melee defense. That's pretty weak for a 1,000 gold cavalry unit, honestly. And being so slow, they can get swamped in bodies pretty quickly and just get wrecked. A little bit of pushback from Zinch, actually. They do get up after the number 3 here and are doing some kind of a job capping it away, actually. Forsaken hanging in here. Marauders, very beat up but alive. Centigor's moving in. The High Beastmaster needed to be resummoned. Fury's actually chasing off the Dark Riders here. Mr. Fly maybe going to be able to get something going here for the late game. Oh, the Master was on a Pegasus. Wow, okay. Master being taken down by the Screamers. Chaos Sorcerer actually getting some good value out of the magic the last few times. But the Centaurs get folded up. They didn't do a whole lot. That's sad. You really need those Centis to perform well. I mean, they're 1,200 gold. They're so expensive. Them down trading that badly is rough, but maybe it's okay because, I mean, the Dark Elves just don't have any points now. It's about to be a triple cap for Tzeentch, and all you've got trotting out is the Black Ark Corsairs over here. That's just not nearly enough, man. Sorceress getting outpaced by her counterpart on the other side of the battlefield here. And Scourge Runner Chariot's moving out. Gonna get caught by the Furies and the Screamers. They're gonna go down in record time here, man. I say that, and then the Furies and the Screamers are just not doing any damage. So I don't know what's up with that. Flying units, man. Oh my god. Whenever CA makes their next mainline title, they really do need the flying to work a lot better in whatever the next engine is going to be, because you can tell that they were working with duct tape and whatever nuts and bolts that they could find under their couch cushions or something. They were like cannibalizing all the other furniture in the house to try and get flying units to work in this engine, because it is janky. Like, flyers will sometimes not land on the ground. They'll do this weird flapping nonsense where they're like hovering but not actually attacking. It's all kinds of stuff that is just not working the way it's supposed to. And it's fairly evident. It works really well considering the age of this engine. But it would be nice if it were a little bit better. So that's like my one big ask for the next Total War game. Because I really want to enjoy the flying combat. It just looks so basic compared to everything else. And, like, this game kind of sells itself on the aesthetics, right? Having, like, this one area of the battlefield that is just, like, achingly apparent for being like as well implemented as it can be, but ultimately still looking pretty poorly synced up with the rest of the game is not a great look. Has given us some cool monsters though, so I will, like, I can't be too salty about it. Cockatrice flying in, one of those said cool monsters. It's a really cool beastie. It's got a cool snare with the petrifying gaze. It actually does pretty good damage. I really, honestly, like the Cockatrice on the Beastman roster especially. Where the Terror Routes as well as the extra AP provides a pretty nice niche for matchups where Gorbles tend to struggle, which is against a lot of the Chaos factions. Gorbles tend to not do too well into them, whereas the Cockatrices with the magic attacks, as well as the poison, good weapon strength, and petrifying gaze can actually do some pretty heavy lifting there. Take a look at the Ogre Kingdoms vs. Tomb Kings game. For sure, I'll do that. Do I have any juicy Empire? Not really. There was one Empire player, and they only sent me, like, one replay. I went back through to scour the Discord, and I did not find any others, unfortunately. You were kind of carrying the, that Empire play rate in the new player tournaments, Melkor. I can't lie. Are you talking about this Tomb King's Ogre Kingdoms? Thought I saw another one in here somewhere. I would presume it's this. I remember you mentioning that you were going for the triple scrap launcher. I like scrap launchers. Hot take. I mean, they're pretty inconsistent, which is their biggest problem, but when they're actually hitting targets, they're pretty devastating. I don't know about 3 of them. I think 2 is probably the upper limit of what you would ever need at any in any matchup. Curious to see how they perform here. So, scrap launchers getting set up. We do have some Noblars across the field. Trappers on either side looking to cap the number 1 and the 3 early. They should be able to cap this before the skeletons get here. Right? Actually don't know. Looks like it's going real slow. They might not be able to get it before the spearmen get up here. In fact, I don't think they are at all. Uh-oh. That's okay, though. As long as you pull them back, it's fine. The Noblar Trappers, not gonna do a whole lot of... Okay, so... I know that you see Nehekara Warriors to shoot, who are the better infantry that the Tomb Kings have. But you have the Noblar Trappers who can shoot those guys, plus Noblar Flingers. You actually want to shoot the cheaper infantry here, because the Skeleton Spears, they're the ones that can poke down your Ogre Bulls, and can also just scrap Pigbacks into obsolescence. And they have a silver shield, so Flingers and Trappers can't do anything to them. I actually think using the scrap launchers just to shoot the Skeleton Spearmen is, ironically enough, the right call. And then you leave the Trappers and the Flingers to shoot the other lightly armored infantry. A million carrion hovering above these poor Noblar Trappers who might get jumped up. Oh wait, no, this is 2 Blood Vultures versus 2 carrion. God, the banners look so similar. It's crazy, dude. It's like a slightly greener shade of blue and maybe a little bit more golden, or a little bit more reddish colored yellow. Carrion getting wrecked by the Blood Vultures. Good protection on your Noblar Trappers. And the Trappers are getting some decent counterfire in here, too, no less. I mean, they've got a lot of ammo. 10 volleys on the Noblar Trappers makes them fairly cost-effective, even if they're shooting at low-quality units. So, I do like that. Using them to kill the Carrion's a good idea. Do need something to try and kill the Bone Giant. Well, you are doing a good job of keeping your Tyrant behind the pillar, but now you get him running out. Uh-oh. Tyrants have good armor, but don't really want to get poked by Skeleton Spears regardless. Oh, no, buddy. Oh, God, please, no. Okay, very lucky that he didn't get blasted by that thing. A little bit of friendly fire going down. This is a little too early of an engagement for the Ogre Kingdoms on this point. Oh, I thought that was a Doom and Darkness. Honestly, Doom and Darkness against the Noblars might be the way to go. I don't see Soul Blight being all that useful, but Doom and Darkness to instantly terror out Noblars, or just to break their leadership, I actually think that's a great idea. Ooh, the, what was that? The Thunder Mace? Pretty sure that was the Thunder Mace going down. It actually killed a lot of Pigback Riders. Scrap launchers, I mean, honestly, don't have bad value. Casket of Souls gets a really good shot off on the Pigbacks. God damn, dude. This matchup just looks awful for the Ogre Kingdoms. What the hell are you supposed to do here? You just don't have, like, anything good against the Tomb Kings. Like, your Noblars are just running. The second they get into combat, I mean, they just can't hold up. Your Firebelly doesn't make things any better for the Noblars as he roasts them just as badly as the Skeletons. Scrap Launcher's being a little inaccurate today. It's a decent shot there. I think if you delay the fight in the middle and hold on to the number 3 and just have the Scrap Launchers firing away at whatever is up on the number 2 and the number 1, maybe you have a better time of it. Because they're actually doing pretty good damage. And they're really long range. I mean, 420 meter range is well outside the distance that a Bone Giant offers. So maybe you can go, maybe you can go triple Scrap Launcher on a map like this. And play mobile with the Scrap Launchers, because they are fast. They have 66 speed, so they're speedy as hell, truth be told. Every time your opponent maneuvers the Bone Giant into a spot where they want to shoot the Scrap Launchers, just move out of range again, go somewhere else and open fire. Because you're doing pretty effective damage with them. It's just the fact that you don't have anything that can actually cap the points or withstand the, like the Tomb King's frontline units. Your Shabtis surround your Scrap Launcher here as well. That's pretty rough. I don't know if there's anything you can do here, honestly. I don't know what Ogre Kingdoms do against the Tomb Kings at all, honestly. I mean, the Tomb Kings, unlike many other factions, like, Ushabti Greatbows massively outtrade Lead Belchers. You've got plenty of cost-effective artillery that can also shoot down their Noblars, like Screaming Skull Catapults. You got the Casket of Souls that's actually done okay damage. It's not super cost-effective. Just get rid of the Casket of Souls and get a Screaming Skull Catapult and you're fine. The Bone Giant actually looking fairly competent in this matchup here. Its struggle is with accuracy. It tends to overshoot oftentimes. Against the Ogre Kingdoms, who have really big, beefy units, that's going to be less of an issue. It's got a lot of good stuff it can shoot, too, like Mournfang Cavalry, great target. Lead Belchers, amazing target for a Bone Giant. Yeah, man. Add on to the fact that there's fear everywhere, which affects not just the Noblars, mind you. Like, yeah, your Noblars having awful leadership at base and being affected by fear is rough. But it's affecting the Mournfang Cavalry. It's also affecting Ogre Bulls. Ogre Bulls do not like losing leadership because they only have 60 at base. They're really not that resilient of a unit. Oh wait, no, they have fear. Never mind. They're not affected by it. Never mind. I'm talking about my ass. I don't know why they thought they didn't have fear. Well, they're okay about it, but the Noblars is still really rough because it does help Ogre Bulls trade cost-effectively. Not very good at value trading by themselves. Monstrous infantry in general just aren't geared up for that. They really need the chaff standing underneath them to be able to perform. And when the chaff is constantly running away, it's a little too much to ask for any kind of makeups elsewhere on the roster.
Woeful tidings. The enemy has captured one of your victory points. Take it back.
Maybe Ogre Kingdoms play a mobile playstyle against Tomb Kings. Like, maybe you run Ogre Bulls up and cap points and then rotate elsewhere to cap points and jump between them as much as possible. I just don't know, man. That's, like, really off the wall, though. That's going to be really hard to execute, too. Mournfang Cavalry at least look effective. Maybe you just really need to lean on your anti-large cav. Maybe you go for a rush. Maybe you don't bring any missiles as the Ogre Kingdoms, because it seems like the missiles are the weak point in this matchup. The Mournfang Cav being the only thing that's value traded well is making me think that maybe you're just going to want to like try and bulldoze over the front line of the Tomb Kings and like kill all the Ushabti as quickly as possible, something like that. I mean, it's not necessarily gonna work. Can't guarantee anything, but I think that's where you probably find the best results. Ouch. More sneaky snakes. Bojan did alright. I mean, 1400 isn't terrible. Casket of Souls, its value isn't good. 700 on a, what, 1200 gold unit, but at the very least it did get a lot of kills. It killed a lot of Noblars, which is awesome. Arkin gets killed by the Mournfang Cav.
The enemy has slain our lord.
Blood Vultures killing the Skeleton Archers, getting attacked by Carrion, but not really being all that worried about it. Blood Vultures are really nasty once they have the Carrion Frenzy up. It takes a while to get charged. They're a little less powerful than they were at release, but still a decent unit. More bodies. The value trade's just so brutal for Empire here. My god, down by 6,000 value, man. That's what feels bad. Spears holding on number 1. Just a triple cap from the Tomb Kings, and a desperation play with Noblars and some Iron Fists. Not going to get very far.
I knew it. Unending glory is yours.
Triple Scrap, definitely an improvement. Really need to dive the Ushabti with the Cav earlier. Yeah, I think you build up and hold off on taking any frontline engagements, because the front line is going to fall apart the second your Noblars get any kind of damage put in on them. Alright, I am... Firebelly got good value. The Tyrant didn't do that well, though. That's rough, man. Let's see if we can come up with something that works. I just don't know about the Tyrant. Honestly, just bring Golg, man. I mean... he's a Tyrant, but better in every way. I mean, he's, like, already just got better stats than a Tyrant. And, I mean, a bonus versus something with better stats is, like, gravy on top of it all. So, he's also got the heal. It's going to be really hard for the Tomb Kings to snipe. You could bring Deadeye and use this against Cetra or the Kitty Cat. Ogre Bulls just for some mass and counterpunch against anything that might try to go after your Noblar scrap launchers early. Do like a couple of those guys. Maybe you just need to max out on the Mournfang Cav though and just go with all Ogre Bull dual weapons in reserve. I don't want to do it, but you might need to cut one of these Noblar scrap launchers. I don't think you can win this matchup without maxed out Mournfang Cav. I don't know if spending that money for the Vanguard deployment is really all that good, because you don't really want to cap the objectives early necessarily. Use the Ogre Bulls to push up and do that. I think you just need numbers here, man. Like, just freaking max out on the Noblar Flingers and all these Noblars, because they're going to run away. You don't really want to be using these Noblars to take any kind of damage. They are not there to soak up any kind of enemy retaliatory fire. Maybe you can fit 2 in reserve. All you're doing is using the Noblar Flingers to, like, hammer down any Nehekara warriors, or to poke at skeleton horses, shoot at Ushabti if they can, literally anything that they can get in their sights. Pigback Riders, you keep in reserve, and you use them to countercharge anything going after Noblar Scrap Launchers with the Ogre Bulls assistance, and maybe it's the Mournfang Cav and the Blood Vultures and the Saber Tusks that you need to be sending into the back line. And what you do is you just bank all the resources to get all of the Mournfang Cavalry out. You literally do not move in from shooting at range with your Noblar Scrap Launchers until all the Mournfangs are on the field. Then you make the decision as to whether you need the Ogre Bulls or you need the Blood Vultures and the Saber Tusk packs, depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. Bring the caster and their reinforcements. Oh yeah, you need a caster, don't you? Get rid of one of these scrap launchers, maybe. $250. Alright, get rid of that guy. Do that. Honestly, the Boglars to the Mad Marshes would have been good on that map, because there is water for them to heal in. That's kind of hilarious. You should bring the Boglars if you're ever on Kassars next time. Because they do heal in the pools of water. If I'm remembering correctly. Alright guys, then do this. I completely forgot about a caster. See? It's something that even experienced people can do, man. You know, you get a little too invested in trying to solve other parts of the equations, and you forget about chaff clear. Sure. I mean, funky build, but maybe some funky sauce is what you need to win here. You could always run a Thunder Tusk. I actually think a Thunder Tusk would be pretty decent into Tomb Kings. I know they're not nearly as good alone as they were in those disgusting little blobs where they would just run around together and kill everything, but they're still super beefy on HP. They've got a decently long-range missile with good damage output. They've got their double anti-large missile on top as well. That's kind of crazy. I don't know, though. I don't envy you trying to figure that matchup out, man. That is a tall task. Oh, this is from a week or two ago. Yeah, from last week. I don't think we actually watched this game from Potato. This is going to be interesting to see, man. Durthu is coming in. Potato played the exact same build in every game except this one? Really? That's so wild. Alright. Hell yeah. Let's see what Durthu's going to get done. Thought they were still banned. Are they banned? Maybe they are banned again. I keep thinking that they're limited to 1. One sec, I'm checking the rule set. How the hell did I lose this? Oh, there it is. Okay. They sure are banned. Never mind. No Thunder Tusks for you. Maybe for that one matchup, we can get people to make an exception. I don't think so, though. The problem is that Thunder Tusks were just obscenely busted when they came out, and even after the nerfs they got, they were still kind of crazy. Typical Wood Elves, just shooting everything to death before you can even interact with them. Bye-bye Horse Masters. Horsemen alive, going to be able to shoot some of the Dryads. And the Glade Guard Corps is going to be moving forward. The Eternal Guard waiting in the wings behind. Way Watchers moving up. Durthu waiting in the wings. Valkia, what is Valkia going to do, man? She can fight Durthu, and she does have the Nurgle healers, so it should be fine if she scraps in there. Her getting a Fleshy Abundance is pretty awesome. I mean, what I wouldn't give for a heal on Khorne's roster, honestly. Oh my god, that Sloupnir, though. Ew. 800 value on one Sloupnir. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that you need to be careful with your positioning on troops and not get, like, super condensed like this. So, incidents like that don't happen. That kind of evened this up. It even got Tommy a little bit of a value lead here. Chaos Warriors getting shot to death by Way Watchers. Even though these guys have silver shields, Way Watcher missiles just hit so hard because of the weapon strength, or the missile strength, that the shields barely even matter, man. They'll break down Chaos Warriors fairly effectively. That's why I don't find Chaos Warriors to be very effective into the Wood Elves. The Wood Elves are just too good at killing anything even vaguely expensive, oftentimes. The silver shields are really nice for pushing, but you need to, like, actually keep this pressure up to collapse on this line, and it's kind of ironic because this choice of Valkia here, because this is arguably the absolute perfect matchup for Archeon with Burning Head. Like, I know he's kind of vulnerable to being sniped. I guess that's why Valkia is here with the Demon Shield. You know what? I mean, now that I'm thinking about it, I think this is just Potato Devil being like a Gigabrain 500 IQ genius. It's a really good Sword of Daith and Flock of Doom on the Hellstriders to stop them from getting into the backfield. Wild Hunters of Kurnus come out onto the field, get a little bit of damage on some Warhounds. Doggy's dead. Valkia getting shot in the face by Way Watchers. God, man, chasing Way Watchers is so scary. It gets really ugly really fast if you're not careful. Rider Horseman shot to pieces by the Glade Guard Corps. Potato's starting to kind of walk away with this one. I know we're just into the start of this game, but most of the units that can threaten the missile troops here are gone. And the Chaos Warriors being in combat now means that their shields are not active, and they're going to get wrecked by the Glade Guard focus fire. Because Glade Guard, you know, they don't have amazing AP values, but 4 AP really isn't that bad. It's quite decent for bow units. Oh wow, and the Hagbane tips have 7? No freaking way, dude. What the hell is that? That's actually kind of bananas. I had no idea that the Hagbane tips had 7 armor-piercing damage. Okay, hell yeah. I mean, the Starfire Shafts are the ones that you see people talk about for the AP all the time, but honestly, the Hagbane tips with the poison are pretty damn amazing. Being able to debuff your opponents and then follow up with your super fast cavalry to like punish slow units, it's really awesome. Bulldozing through the Chaos Warriors now. There's not that many left. Rotting Riders getting absolutely hammered here. Dude, Sword of Day, Flock of Doom, Glade Guard into the sunset, Way Watchers from the off angle. It's all a little too much. Beautiful Sleipnir, though. Man, Valkia put in the work. 2,000 value on Valkia. Another good stream of corruption. 1 Glade Guard breaks, but... ow, man. I mean, Rotting Riders super dead here. Way Watchers doing well. Some of them getting run down by Hellstriders. Wild Rider's gonna come in here, though, and break whatever remains. Broke before they even got there, dude. Damn. Hellstriders running into the Eternal Guard. Very sad. Chaos Warriors need to get up in there, I guess. I don't understand how the value looks like this when what I'm looking at is... honestly... well, actually, you know what? I know why now. It's pretty obvious. Durthu is the one that has taken most of the damage here. The rest of the Wood Elf army is just fine. Like, so much damage got tied up in Durthu, and only now are we seeing the Wood Elves commit to killing the single entities. Like, the Nurgle Sorcerer just died. Valkia getting shot at a little bit here. Most of the value that the Wood Elves had up to this point has been on the actual supporting units, and the characters were left alone for the most part, while it's kind of the other way around for the Warriors of Chaos. They were really going for this Lord kill. When Durthu is just so beefy, it's not really worth it. I mean, he's got 10,000 HP. He's really hard to take down. I don't care if you're Valkyrie or not, and you're like custom built for killing him. It's still kind of a waste of time. I think focusing on diving the backline would have been better, and pushing more with the Chaos Warriors is fine. I mean, the Chaos Warriors are there just to catch arrows. I mean, they're not really ever going to get a good fight. If you really want to run down the Wood Elves, then you need stuff like Forsaken. Forsaken are quick enough to catch Glade Guard and even Way Watchers in a pinch. Way Watchers can counterfire Forsaken pretty viciously, so you do need to be careful. The only armored infantry that I like here is finally coming in. That's Aspiring Champions. These guys are just way tankier than Chaos Warriors even are. It's very hard to kill the models on Aspiring Champion units. So they have like full cap weight. They're very good for holding objectives against Wood Elves. Wood Elves just can't move these guys. They can fire missiles into them all day, but the 120 armor, like, only AP damage is getting through. And their silver shields are great. Like, Way Watchers can kind of poke them down, but even there, it's not that great for them. You can always bring just like wave after wave of Marauder and try and occupy all of the Wood Elf units, and then commit to diving with like just Hellstrider Swarms or something. Valkia did kill Durthu, got 3,000 value, that's my girl, but she's not going to be able to do enough to get a win here for the Warriors. Wood Elves, they'll just bunker down on the points. They've got so many units that the leadership loss isn't that bad, because they're going to be able to overwhelm in terms of numbers. Losing your Lord is really only bad if you're, is really only bad if the numbers are even on both sides. If you've got the numbers advantage on the battlefield and you lose your Lord, it's really not that big of a deal usually, unless you're playing somebody like Greenskins or Ogre Kingdoms. Because you'll usually be able to stop your opponent from getting any rear charges and breaking like massive numbers of your army. Did find out Ogre Kingdoms versus Chaos Dwarves is miserable for them. Don't know how they deal with Lead Belchers. Yeah, they don't have anything to deal with Lead Belchers, do they? I guess they could super slowly poke them down with a Deathstreak rocket or something. That's about it, though. Let's actually go watch that replay. That can be our last one for the night. I am gonna do a shorter stream today. I'll try and cast some other of these replays for my vacation. And, you know, plan out when I'm gonna be dropping them exactly. Saw it in here somewhere. Where is it? Oh, here it is. Oh, brought the bolt thrower. I mean, I guess the bolt throwers maybe could work. It's going to be a little rough, potentially. We'll see about it. It's kind of crazy that dwarf bolt throwers are so strong. And then these goblin bolt throwers are just absolute hot dog shit. I mean, terrible units. I've yet to see the hobgoblin bolt throwers trade well. They don't even seem much better than the Greenskins versions, which CA promised they would be. Feels like it was a little bit of a deception, honestly. We'll see, though. Nobbler Trapper is getting shot up by the Hobgoblin Sneaky Gits, who should win this pretty decisively if they attack quickly here. Getting a few more shots in with the precursor missiles. What the hell are the Cutthroats throw? Oh, they're throwing daggers too. Ah, wow, okay. And they won big time. I mean, there's two Sneaky Gits here to one Trapper. I guess that makes sense. It's an unfortunate loss, though. Another Nobbler Trapper routing here. This is why I'm not liking the Trappers early. They're just getting dunked on constantly.
We have a victory point.
If you want to do the Trapper Vanguard, then just do it in front of your main formation. That way you can support them quicker and pull them back to safety if need be. If doing it out here on the edge with one on each point is 500 gold, that's very hard to support. Yikes. Okay, a couple things for Hattie. Okay, we'll start here. Pick a lane. Don't push all three objectives. Not before you really have sized your opponent up. It's never a good idea. If you push all three objectives early and you rush to get on them, your opponent is going to surprise you with something at the worst possible moment, and they will smack you down, probably. Being patient and advancing when and where you know your opponent is at a disadvantage is the way to go. And the Chaos Dowie, they got some good trades early on, but now the Lead Belchers are starting to get posted up, and they're going to wreck all of these Chaos Dowie infantry. And honestly, what would be preferable here for the Chaos Dwarves is they rotate the Chaos Dowie off of the middle here, away from the Lead Belchers, and get the Sneaky Gets over here with the Stalk to sit on the number 2. Very a little inaccurate. What the hell is going on with these Lead Belchers? Yeah, there we go. They actually got a shot in there. You gotta be careful about firing out of forests, man. Firing out of forests does also scatter your shots, not as badly as firing into them, but you can definitely avoid a lot of the inaccurate Lead Belcher fire by moving out of here. Another thing for Hattie, I completely forgot about this. There's no point having all 3 bolt throwers back here. They are covering one objective, and that is it. There's a big tree line here. This area here would be a better spot for the bolt throwers. And what you could do is you can have one bolt thrower here, one bolt thrower here. Blue lines are where they sit. And you can cover all of the objectives. And then you're in the open field where your opponent's going to get nailed. And ouch. Oh my god, dude. Wow. That was beautiful. That was disgusting. Holy crap. That's about as good of a Comet of Cassandora as you could ever ask for. One shot the Infernal Guard Fireglaves. Without them, there's definitely nothing to threaten the Lead Belchers, because those bolt throwers are wildly mispositioned. They are just never, ever going to be able to get lined up to hit these Lead Belchers. Iron Guts on top of the Chaos Dowie Warriors. You got the Sneaky Gets being shot at now by the Trappers. Trappers rallied and getting some volleys off, doing some good damage. Nothing too serious, but it's still decent. Iron Fists out on the field, Noblars, and the Butcher hanging out on number 3. You can see the Bolt Throwers just shooting the trees here. Positioning is everything, guys. I actually think that the Chaos Dwarves might have been okay if they didn't have their Bolt Throwers parked back here. So honestly, they don't even have bad value. Used about half their ammunition by this point. Yeah, get those bolt throwers out here next time, and maybe Hattie's going to be a little bit better off. Magma Cannon doing some decent damage to the Lead Belcher. I think this might, honestly, Empire, be coming down to map. I would be very careful about assuming that the Chaos Dwarves can't do anything to the Lead Belchers, because it doesn't really look like that's necessarily the case. You just don't have access to be able to hit them right now. Now that the Hobgoblin bolt throwers are shooting at this Lead Belcher, they're not doing anything, so maybe never mind. Wow. That is really sad. Look at this dude is right in front of them. Finally get a little bit of damage in on him. I'd say about half of those bolt throwers miss their shots, though, on a unit that's literally in, like, half range. Usually artillery at half distance are way more accurate, and here they just aren't hitting at all. Comet coming down, Uranans over here. It's decent damage. Little inefficient, maybe, for trying to kill the arty, but, you know, it's worth testing out for sure, just to know for certain. Yeah, Man-Eaters and Lead Belchers wrecking the Hobgoblin. Sneaky gets here. Good value on the one here. 321 kills, just paying for themselves, but that's fine. I mean, done a pretty good job of cleaning up all the other units. The Iron Guts running around. They've been pummeling a lot of units. This is the one I'm thinking of. This one rotated out to the #1 objective. Beat up on these Hobgoblins. Good Noblar traps going down. Stopping the Bull Centaur Renders from getting a good charge off against the Iron Guts here. Will make a difference for the prolonged engagement, but it will mean that the Iron Guts trade in a little bit better there. More Bull Centaur Renders coming in. Iron Guts eating the charge. Probably just want to get them running away and then have the Mournfang Cav charge into the rear. Good decision making. A little slow on the execution. It's really the only note that I have, though. And bolt throwers with not that much value. Okay, never mind. They do suck. God damn, dude. Bolt throwers. How do you use them? Does anybody know? Let's find out. Doesn't look like it. The Magma Cannon also shooting. It just doesn't help that they're shooting into the trees half the time. Yeah, Iron Guts do go down to the Bull Centaur Renders. They do almost pay for themselves here. 900 value ain't bad for them. These Iron Guts not doing all that well, but they got a little bit fighting against the Renders, and the Mournfang Cavalry did great. I mean, they really crushed these guys over here. Lead Belchers firing onto the flank of the Sneaky Gets, doing big damage, and the Mournfang Cav crushing charge, running these guys down now. Very short-lived experience for those little guys. Nobbler Flinger's just poking away. The Chaos Tower just so far on the back foot, man. If Hattie positions the artillery a little bit better and plays off of 2 points that are both covered by the artillery, I think this game is a lot closer. I don't think it would be quite as easy and straightforward as this one is. looking right now. You did a really good job of punishing your opponent's bad positioning, though, Empire. He had a beautiful comet in there, too. I mean, that comet that nuked the, where are they? Oh, they got unsummoned, so they're not on the field anymore. But the one that nerfed the Fireglaves, who were, like, over here, was pretty amazing. I mean, that was about as pretty of a comet as I've ever seen in my entire life. Fireglaves back out. Blood Vultures going to be landing on them, doing a little bit of damage. Blood Vultures are a decent unit. They're not quite as strong as Furies, but they're fairly close, and they're a lot cheaper too, so I really don't mind their performance overall. They're very well balanced. The Powder Gut's got 2,500 value also. We'll just wind it out, man. Hattie is just totally gassed and it's like completely stuck up in their deployment zone. It's a really rough situation to be in. Another Comet? Uranans? Yeah, Comet comes down, a little bit of poke onto the edge of the formation, but nothing serious. Fireglaves and... or the Iron Guts and the Mournfangs, I should say, getting on top of the Fireglaves, doing a little bit of damage here. It's gonna be GG. Look at the little sneaky gets, man. They have really uncanny faces compared to all of the other like models in this game, it feels. Like the Hobgoblins honestly look like people wearing weird Halloween masks more than they do fantasy monsters, but I think that actually kind of adds to the aesthetic of them, because it makes them feel a little bit more off-putting, truthfully. Yeah, the Powder Guts are really good for killing flying characters like that. That's exactly what they should be brought out for. And did a really, really good job of just sitting on him and blasting him out of the air. Yeah, Ogres are really fun. They're a really good faction. They take a little bit of time to figure out, but once you do, you're going to have a pretty good go of it. They just perform very consistently for the most part. They got a few matchups that they just struggle with immensely, but most factions they have a fairly reasonable good time against. So just keep practicing with them. You'll get there with them, I promise, man. Alright, that's going to be it for me. A little bit of a shorter stream. Go watch Turin. He's streaming the SFT. I'm not going to be playing in it. I just have too much stuff to work on before my vacation before I leave for vacation on Sunday, so it's just not in the cards. But that's okay. Just want to make sure I get all my ducks in a row before I go. So I'll catch you guys later. I'll be doing another stream at some point this week, and then I will be doing my stream Saturday for the new player tournament. I will not be able to cover that many replays from it, though. I'll only be able to do Saturday, and maybe when I get back I can do some replays from it, but we'll see how it is, because I am going to be gone for about a week and a half. So one of the new player tournaments I'll be missing out on. But yeah, that's the plan. Anyways, guys, thank you for joining. Peace out. Take care. I'll see y'all next time.